It's 1:30 to gin and tonic, and welcome to Whose Views with JT and the Whotastic panel. And look, this one is about me. It's bloody brilliant.
Hello, welcome to Whose Views and another in our very special Tom Baker season weekend. Yes, it's Saturday. It's the 20th of January 2024 and we're here to celebrate Tom Baker's 90th birthday. Give it up for Tom, everybody. Welcome to the Whotastic panel. I've got Michael, I've got Paul, I've got Kirsty, I've got Bedria, and we've got the third Dr. Ian, and we've got everybody in the chat here as well. How you all doing?
I'm very well.
Fabulous, darling.
Fantastic. All very hot with these scarves on, though. Particularly Michael.
Mate,
we'll go to that later.
Mate, you're in Scotland. I'm in Northern Australia, so I don't want to hear a word about everyone being hot.
But you obviously deported, were you?
How dare
I don't know
you?
what you mean, Paul.
There's a history of criminals in Australia.
Oh, yes. We'll move on. We'll move on. So we are here to celebrate Tom's 90th birthday, and we've got a fun and hopefully packed show for you. In this particular show coming up for you a bit later on in the show. We've got the results of our channel season survey poll. Which one won? We'll be telling you later on. We've also got a very special edition of Merchandise Paradise coming up with some of the merchandise to show Tom's face over the years, mainly from the 70s and 80s, to be honest. And I want to say thank you. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's tuning in and watching the channel and watching our shows, and especially for the first part of our Tom Baker special, which we did last Sunday, where we looked at Tom's career out of Doctor Who. Some of the other stuff they did, didn't we, guys? And that was a fun show. And I want to say thank you very much for all those wonderful comments we've had and for subscribing to the channel. We do appreciate it. But on this particular show, it's all about Doctor Who. I also want to say thank you very much to everybody that sent in various pieces of gorgeousness for this show, including this. This was from the Thing King. This was from Tim himself. Thank you so much, mate, for this piece of art that he's done together, which obviously states happy 90th birthday to Tom Baker. Really appreciate that. Thank you for sending that to me. And there you go. At the top of the show for you. Isn't it great? Wasn't that great?
Yeah,
lovely. Very nice.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah. So thank you for sending that in, mate. I really, really appreciate all those sort of things. Before we go any further, let's say hello to everybody that's in the chat, because the chat is filling up absolutely lovely. Oh, goodness me. And you're going to be busy, isn't it? We've got Gore Vidal here who's saying g'day.
G'day. Hey, guys. Nothing says Tom like g'day, does it?
We've got Pete here as well. Pete is saying good day and happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday to Tom. And Pete, stay tuned with us, because later on I've got some of the pictures you've sent me in as well. And thank you for sending those in. That's wonderful. Gore Vidal is in Texas, he's telling us here as well, because he's saying it's 1 p.m. The Celtic Druid is here joining us. Nice to see you. Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. And hope you enjoyed this birthday party. Garbage is here. Hello to Garbage. Hello and evening, everyone. It's nearly Sunday, and I don't mean Ruby. No, none of that tonight. Save all that. We're having none of that tonight. This one's all about the fourth Doctor. I want to say thanks very much also to Garbage, of course, and to Kirsty, who are moderating in the chat for us as usual this evening. That's great. Tony's back, everybody. Tony, got your message in the week. You're very welcome, and welcome to Whose Views. And a big Tom Baker hello to you all.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Pete's also telling us we've all got lovely scarves. I've heard that before somewhere, missus. I'm not sure where. Mark is saying, where did you get that? Okay, that's great there. Yes, so here we go. This is our Tom Baker 90th birthday edition. And this one is, as I say, all about the Fourth Doctor and the role he created. So we'll start from where we left off, shall we? Because Tom Baker was announced to the British public as the Fourth Doctor on the 21st of February 1974. And it's fair to say that Doctor Who was never the same ever again. These are some of the pictures. We've all seen this one here. This press call was at the TV Centre's infamous Bridge Lounge almost we're a month or 50 years ago. Can you just imagine? And of course, it involved not just Liz, but Pat Gorman, regular in Doctor Who through the classic years as a Cyberman. And this led, of course, to 7 mighty years under Tom. And you could also say a golden age of British television, because Tom and Doctor Who in the United Kingdom on a Saturday night became part of the BBC One golden era. He was one of the main draws on Saturday nights, and it's just fabulous. Yeah, he was responsible for this huge upturn in the viewing figures. He got them through all sorts of stuff for 7 mighty years. It's hard to imagine now, isn't it, everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he became the icon of Doctor Who. Any layman who isn't necessarily as nerdy as us, when you mention Doctor Who, oh, the guy with the scarf. It's just what they say, you know.
Well, to this day, it's still scarf, still the floppy hat, still the long coat. Here in the United Kingdom, people still associate Doctor Who with that template that Tom set down all those years ago. And it's also fair to say that for 6 of Tom's 7 years, this title sequence became one of the most iconic in British history. To this very day, they've tried to recreate it on several occasions. Hasn't really worked in my eyes. Hasn't really worked at all. But he saw this series through all this and became a huge, huge part of our lives, especially most of us on this panel tonight who are of a certain age, tuning in every Saturday night. What strikes you about those times, guys? What can you remember about those Saturday nights back in the day?
Well, it's a bit of a cliche to say, and Tom always talks about it, of sitting down as a kid with your dinner, particularly in the UK, and having your fish fingers, chips and beans, watching Tom Baker defeat Daleks, Cybermen, Zygons, and the rest. Great memories. Tom is my doctor and always will be.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
You're going to make me cry, Paul.
Ian, what were your memories of Saturday nights?
It was that, it's like you described it. I mean, it started, didn't it? You got the football results and everything else, and you got Basil Brush, you got Doctor Who, you got Jimmy, we won't mention, and then you got the Generation Game, and then it went through everything else, 2 Ronnies, and it was just the BBC dominated start to end. ITV might as well have closed down. But if you thought of Saturday evenings on BBC TV, you immediately thought of Doctor Who, and you thought of Tom Baker. And I remember the excitement. It's funny because I obviously remember all the stories and the excitement and everything else, but for some reason, and I don't know why, I particularly remember the afternoon before Terror of the Zygons episode 1. Just the new series and everything else, and just knowing that it was on, and that afternoon. And I just remember that afternoon taking so long. I swear that afternoon was about 3 weeks long, and then went straight into Terror of the Zygons and smashing up oil rigs and everything. It was just an unbelievable time. It's difficult to convey that now to generations that have social media and everything's online and everything else. It's, you didn't have video recorders. There was no such thing as DVDs. The video recorders just existed in TV stations, didn't they, in TV studios and stuff like that. But you either got the book when eventually it came out, or hope for a repeat, and that was it. It was statement viewing. Unbelievable time.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you remember that sense of excitement when Grandstand was starting to wind up?
Yeah.
And it was coming to that particular time where you knew it was going to come off the air, and then you could possibly sometimes have to get through Basil Brush or something like that, Pink Panther, where it was going to be, Wonder Woman in some cases, I think, as well. But the excitement, you got that sort of tingly excitement feeling. You think, hang on a minute, Doctor Who's coming on, and then to be hit by those iconic titles, it really transported you into another world, didn't it?
I'm very fond of those. Those titles are the best for me ever. But I also very much like, because they were very, very similar. Obviously, they were derivative from the last series of Pertwee, and I loved those titles with Pertwee. So when they carried them on at Tom Baker, I was just that was mortified when Nathan Turner got rid of them. But probably
we'll be coming to that, because we'll be coming to Tom's time in the 80s, I'm sure. But for 20 million people in some cases, this was the introduction to what was fast becoming a legendary British family tea time show. To get the audience figures that it was getting at that time was due to the fact that the scripts were good, the stories were brilliant, the acting was good, but it had to come down to Tom. Absolutely came down to Tom, didn't it? His talent was, well, you know, absolutely incredible.
No matter what they throw at Tom, he's always got the humour and the gravitas, and you always believe he's the Doctor. And there's certain moments when he delivers a speech or a line when everyone's in jeopardy, and you believe everything he says. You believe in the gravitas and what he's saying, that the universe is in trouble or Earth's in trouble. You really believe him.
Even in season 17, which
Even
will
in
also be
season
coming
17,
through. Andrew, as a Celtic Druid, is saying here, I'm so proud to say I still remember Tom Baker's first story. Today I watched Robot to celebrate his 90th, 50 years of Robot. Sure. Absolutely. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, because throughout this year, we will possibly be celebrating 50 years of that first Tom Baker series as we go through the year. We might be. Gordon Vidal is saying to us, didn't Baker's Doctor air went upstairs, downstairs, and I, Claudia, said, if so, then maybe you're right about a British TV golden age. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And all the classics, The Generation Game, Parkinson, Morecambe and Wise.
Fawlty Towers.
Yeah. A real golden age. And the BBC was solid on it. It was giving us hit after hit after hit after hit. Golden age, says Jack, for Doctor Who, science fiction, and British TV in general. The show was never as good after him. Let's face it. Yes. I mean,
he left very big boots to fill.
Huge boots, which...
Well, anyway. Even when Peter Davison took over, I remember Peter Davison saying someone shouted in the street, "Where's your scarf?"
Where's the scarf?
So there you
are. And he always called it the Tom Baker backlash, didn't he, or the whiplash, or something like that. Peter's saying to him, Tom was that push to the future, not putting down who had gone before. Wonderful chaps, all of them. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and Tony's lame in here. Look at this: Tom Baker, glam rock, Spangles, The Generation Game. Happy days. And they were, for those of us that were around when this was all kicking off, and when there's one for you, Kirst. It's hard to tell people today, isn't it, what an impact Tom had on all our lives. It's just so difficult because it doesn't necessarily happen today. And what I mean by this is exactly this: Tom became an icon. Tom was the face of the BBC as well as Doctor Who, and he knew it, and he held that responsibility so high. We always know, we've mentioned on the show before, he would never drink or have a cigarette anywhere near children. If there was any kids around, he would be the Doctor. Now look at this. There he is. He helped, of course, to launch and really advance the Target book sales. Now look at these kids. And this was so special because Tom would go on tours around the UK. He would visit schools. He would visit community centres. He would visit groups. He would visit people's houses and watch the telly with them. He was adored, to use one of his own words, and still is, let's face it. But look at this, just takes me right back to those days. And of course, he also visited people in hospital as well, and people and children's homes, and he would sit with them and just be responsible and fabulous. And what can you say about that? What a giant.
I think one of the most amazing clips that I've ever seen of Tom Baker out of Doctor Who, but in the role, if you like, was when he went to Ireland. And, that very divided island at the time. And he went to different schools at different sides of the divide. And he was just, and I think somebody commented on the video at some point that, various American presidents have tried, but only Tom Baker had been able to unite Northern Ireland. And I think that in itself was incredible, because that was a horrible time, especially mid-70s. Northern Ireland is not a place you wanted to be. And he just went there, and all of them, no matter what their background, palm of his hand.
And you can see
a beautiful shot of Tom running up and down the playground and that.
Yeah, because he had nothing else to do.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And you can see in that footage, he knows how significant that is, and he's
moved.
really leaning into moved, but leaning into it. He knows the power of that, but doesn't misuse it.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen it, go and look it up on the Tube of Who, because you can see he is moved by this. He's very emotive about it. But all these kids, everything forgotten, to like lovely speech he delivers in Ark in Space. All these people are just there to see the Doctor as Tom Baker, and he's overwhelmed, and it's a wonderful thing. He's so gobsmacked. Even Tom forgets at one point what he's going to say. The mighty Tom Baker is nearly speechless. It's just incredible.
And that was the great thing about science fiction storytelling in those days. It could unite people from all walks of life, all sides of politics together, and that's a rare thing these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Andrew, thank you very much for just subscribing. Thank you very much. You're very lovely. Oh, and Just Jordan is here as well. Thank you, Jordan. Just Jordan. Nice to see you. Lovely. Pete has been saying, I watched 7 of his stories in the last few days. It's been a pleasure. This is the other thing about this. I mean, we're talking about the kids and the effect that Tom had on the kids. It was all of us, really. I didn't know anybody when I was a kid that wasn't watching Doctor Who or wasn't a fan of Tom Baker. It's hard to tell people how big he was and how popular he was with kids. It's mind-blowing, isn't it, when you think about it today?
I love the idea of him going into people's houses, though. That photograph you had with the watching Robot and the family are there. And Tom tells this story. I know he's apt to exaggerating sometimes, but he tells the story that the kids were watching Doctor Who and then doing a double take and thinking Doctor Who's in our front room, which must have been a great experience.
Yeah. But this is what, I don't know if people still do this today. I would imagine some of these actors do. But they would go into children's homes and they would go into, the hospitals, and it would brighten up the kids' day. As you can see there on the right-hand side, that young man there has been given the Doctor Who annual for 1978. I mean, these kids would have been, well, they would have been very down, wouldn't they, really? And here's Tom Baker coming in as the alien, the beneficial alien that he always talked about, and just making their day. And I'm sure, a lot of those youngsters would have been elated and just forget all their problems as soon as that man in the scarf walks in. Because even the image of Tom walking in that costume was enough to capture any kid, let's face it.
Because wasn't the story that he was a little concerned about on one occasion the reported violence in an episode that Mary Whitehouse was banging on about, and he was a little concerned about one of the scenes, and he wanted to see how it came across, and he knocks on the door and says, "Excuse me, do you watch Doctor Who here?" And they, the parents allowed him in. I mean, now if that happened, you'd have a media team, you'd have Instagram accounts, you'd have hashtags, it'd be a circus. But there's something very authentic and sweet about that.
Yeah, he talks about that, I think, in the Who on Earth is Tom Baker book, which we spoke about on part 1 of our Tom Baker season here on Who's Views, and I think it is in there. But it was so important for Tom to actually capture the feedback from his audience, and he knew the audience was mainly the kids, and that's how he played everything. You can see that in a lot of his performances as well, because he's so deadly serious, even when he's not being,
And he doesn't talk down to the kids.
No,
he never did that, did he? Ever?
No, he never did. And I think this is part of the reason why we were all captured. Because let's face it, as I said when we started the show, bringing Tom on board to play the Doctor in Doctor Who, nothing was ever the same again. And we still feel the effect of Tom Baker's Doctor to this very, very day, don't we?
We do. We look like we're part of a cult, don't we? At the moment. In fact, I'm just going to dip out for a minute and take the scarf.
That's fine. You do that.
Coming up, and it's getting hot.
The magic is, though, of course, that it's not just the children.
No stamina, Michael. No stamina. That's what I'm saying.
It's not just the children of the past that have been captured by Tom. It's the kids of today. Do you want some proof? Have a look at this.
Happy 90th birthday, Tom Baker.
That is one of our youngest viewers. That is Zach. So hello to Zach. Thank you so much for sending me that video. I hope you enjoyed seeing yourself there. But he did.
It was Zach's birthday just recently as well, wasn't it? Was he?
I think it was.
So, yeah.
I think it was. So happy belated birthday to you as well. But I mean, this is one of the reasons that Doctor Who is still being found today, isn't it? Because this marvelous actor, this incredible version of the Doctor that Tom put together, it's timeless.
I think it's an amazing casting. I think he was born to play the part, and I can't think of anyone else playing it at that point in the series history. And I know we're going to talk about that. He wasn't original choice, but by God, what a great choice he was in the end.
It was turned out to be a very lucky choice for all of us, didn't it? And what a way to start off as well, because, you know, to meet, I remember Terence Dicks saying that when he and Barry Letts met Tom, they were met with this very larger than life character. So that's where the whole thing started to come from, about, you know, Barry telling him, just be yourself, you know, just play it the way you want. And then Tom as an actor having to turn around and say, well, who am I? Because I don't know who I am. That lovely classical line. But it all started to come together from the moment Tom started to have his input. And I wanted to show this as well, because the costumes for Tom are to this day still iconic. And it all started, of course, with this one from the now award-winning and well-known Hollywood designer, James Asherton. And this is the a print of the original graphic here of what it would be. There's some very interesting notes in this as well. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. And this is how it turned out on the right. And we all know how the scarf came about, don't we? It just, they delivered all this wonderful wool to the lovely Begonia Pope and just said, knit it. And they forgot to tell her how long it would be. And on the notes here on the left, it actually says, Tom wants to retain the length of the scarf.
The photograph of him next to the drawing is from that lovely poster, and that's one of my favourite pictures of Tom. I remember that from the early 70s in that poster magazine we got. Remember that?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, I remember that well. And that was one of these big fold-out things.
That's the one
you used to get at the time. And it was an A4 size, but you had to pull it out. And it turned into this massive, big poster. And there was two sides to it. There was the logo on one side with two pictures. And then on the other side was that one. And it was just, that's how they did things in the 70s. You get these big poster magazines of all, you know, you had
It
Elvis.
looks a bit like he's on top of the pops in the main photograph. It's a new photograph.
Doesn't that picture scream Doctor Who?
It does, yeah.
You know,
and
there's
yet,
something about it.
And yet at the time, it was such a contrast to John Pertwee with his frills and velvets and finery, to get this bohemian look. Which was quite colourful in comparison with previous Doctor's costumes. It was quite a departure, and now it's just become so iconic. Yeah,
well, you can't get away from it. As I say, you know, even now everybody's always continually saying, when you say Doctor Who, even in some sort of comedy or skits, it's always going to be the scarf, the hat, the long coat. The long coats, of course, have been retained in the reboot version that's come up recently, but this was the way he started off, wasn't he? This was in Robot, and the first stories were, this was his look. And as you say, Michael, this was such a difference from what Pertwee had worn before. I really do believe that this captured the public's imagination even more.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I definitely agree.
Yeah. Sorry, Kirsty.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree that, yeah, that's how you imagine it. It's completely different from the frills and the extravagance that is. Yeah, he looks like just like a wee bohemian traveller. It's amazing and it's lush, and yeah, no one holds a candle in the lid compared to the reboot of the costumes nowadays to what he had. Hands down, I'll die on the hill. He's got the best.
And never let us hear that excuse saying that the Doctor never changed his clothes, because Pertwee and Tom did it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a great reveal, as if he's just trying it on with a bunch of other stuff, and it's like, oh, this will do. Yet so much thought has gone into it.
Very lucky. He could have been a Viking, couldn't he? To be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I quite like that costume, I have to say.
Yeah. Or a clown. Yeah.
At least they didn't run with the clown outfit and they saved that for 2023, didn't they?
Well, they did, yes.
Now Ian.
We'll get some great comments for you. Thank you all for watching us in the chat. Please don't forget to like it. If you're new to us, please do subscribe to the channel as well. Go Vidal. Interesting that listening to this, we here in the USA have no idea how important Baker was to you. This is fascinating to me. It's huge. Tom Baker has become part of our culture, and he's the last great British eccentric. He is a legend for us over here. To this day, everybody knows who Tom Baker is. Everybody, even the smaller ones, will know who Tom Baker is because he has such a success, we touched on last week, since Doctor Who. But still Doctor Who, even to people that haven't seen him.
And it's interesting, just picking up on Gore Vidal's comment there, it's interesting for me to listen to your collective experiences because, of course, I'm not in the UK. And we had a very different experience here where, I mean, Tom was the first Doctor I saw his episodes as they went out. Knew it was season 18, and then obviously Davison followed. And but then once season 19 had finished, we went back to repeats. So in Australia, we were constantly getting Tom Baker over and over again. So it was a very different experience.
Rub it in, Michael, for goodness sake.
No, I'm not rubbing it in. I'm not rubbing it in, but it was a very different experience. So we for the Australian viewers, they would remember the Goodies or Monkey Magic, Inspector Gadget, followed by Doctor Who, and then the 6 p.m. news. And if you were like me, living in North Queensland at the time, the power would be going off regularly because they were industrial disputes going on. But that's another story. Well, that
was like Britain in the 70s here, because that's this is what actually helped to cement Tom as the Doctor for entire watching it. Because at one point, BBC Television was the only television station on at one point because the strikes took ITV off air. And that's why things like City of Death and stuff were getting huge viewing figures, because you only had, but everybody fell in love with Tom, and that's what made him a real legend in British television. It really was.
He was authentic. He was real, but he was unique in the sense that you look at other 70s heroes, his contemporary heroes, they were, American cops with guns. It was Buck Rogers with guns. It was all this sort of stuff. And yet here's this intellectual who's slightly eccentric and
British.
That's what made him unique. Certainly for me, it was something very different on television.
George is pointing out here. Hi, George. Nice to see you again. The famous story of Tom visiting the school that came to see the location filming of Pyramids of Mars. The day after they were there, he went in full costume because he wanted to say hello, as he was too busy filming on the day they actually arrived. Yeah, that's a great story, isn't it? It was his day off the day after, so he toddled up to the school. And didn't he say something like, "You came to see me at work, so I've come to see you at work"? Absolutely wonderful. That is great. Atom is here. Nice to see you, mate. Happy to see everyone. Brilliant show. Thank you very much. We've only just started, really. We've got lots more coming up for you. And Raymond says, "I missed the Pertwee regeneration. The youngest of 9. I didn't have control of the TV." 9. Goodness me.
9.
And then I know, wow, your poor mother. And then saw Tom wondering who he was. "Where is my Doctor?" I wasn't happy. Then the Ark in Space. He was the Doctor. It's really Raymond, it's really strange that you say that, because the Ark in Space, I have vague memories of Robot, but it's the Ark in Space that got me. I remember the TARDIS arriving in the dark and Tom coming out. I was 4. And that's a vivid memory for me. That's how good he was, stepping out of that TARDIS, shouting at Harry Sullivan, and bang, I'm there, and my Doctor as well. So it was absolutely fantastic. Listen, guys, we've got. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Nice to see you all. We've got some of our friends that couldn't make it onto the show tonight from the Whotastic panel. And we've got some messages for them coming up throughout the show. The first one I want to play, though, is from Phil, who can't get here tonight. And he wanted to pass on some sort of message to us. So let's have a look what he wanted to say.
I've got a couple of sneaky predictions of things that will definitely come up in conversation tonight. So I'm going to record a separate video. And if JT plays it at the end, we can see if I was right.
Look at the end. He's stuck in a time, Eddie.
Again.
Do you know what, though? I haven't watched what he's predicting. So it's going to be interesting to see if we actually follow what he's thinking about, isn't it? Actually, on that one, it's
if he gets it right, does he get a Who Views pencil?
He gets a Who's Views pencil.
Wow.
When I get them sorted.
It's so rare. I've never seen one.
No, you won't do yet. I haven't got them sorted yet. But no. Okay, guys. So let's have a look at this. So yes, here we are. Welcome to our Tom Baker 90th birthday special here on Who's Views. It's lovely to see you all. Lots and lots to go through here as well as Tom's mighty 7 years as the Doctor. Let's have a look at those years then. Who wants to kick off with a favourite memory? Anyone?
from the whole.
Well, there's so many memories. I find it really hard selecting because Tom is my favourite, like I've said already, and there's so many moments. So I actually going to mention a couple of things here because we're probably all going to agree on lots of moments of Tom as the Doctor in the series. But I love when he used to appear on other shows, and he was fantastic. One of my most favourite memories, and I have seen it more recently on YouTube, was his appearance on Disney Time in character, which I thought was amazing.
yeah.
And I think John Pertwee had done it before, I think 2 years before, and he didn't do it in character, he did it as John Pertwee. But the fact Tom was doing it in character was amazing. And if you've not seen it, seek it out on the Tube of You, and you'll see the connecting bits, the bit at the start and the end, the intro and the outro of the programme are hilarious. And they connect it to Terror of the Zygons, which is a lovely in-character moment, and I adore that. I don't know if you've seen that.
I remember watching that on the night, because it was the week before Doctor Who came back, wasn't it? It was on the Saturday night, and I Disney Time for myself and my sister was a show we would like to watch, and then we would say, "Oh, we'd like to see that, and our parents would ignore us. So it was one of those sorts of shows. But I do remember the Tom one because it was Tom, and it got me even more excited. Oh my God, Doctor Who's back next week, and I think there was a trailer or something for it after it as well. But that lovely bit where he's sitting there and he gets the note, it's the Brigadier. You know,
he's in trouble again.
Yeah.
And again, something I'm always saying, he played it absolutely straight and for real. That's what was, even though he was eccentric and alien, he played it for real. There was no metaphoric winking at the camera.
No,
well,
which is what you get that a lot today,
he's trying to find out where the cinema is when he arrives in the TARDIS at the start, and he speaks to this random member of the public. I think he's an actor. Speaks to them and does a Donald Duck impersonation, which is wonderful. Look out for that.
Is it on any of the Blu-rays? I can't remember.
No, I think it might be because they're allowed to do bits without the Disney copyright issues. They took all the Disney references out, so any musical cues and stuff like that. I think it might be on one of them, possibly season 12.
It was on the VHS of Terror of the Zygons. It'll probably be on season 13 if it leads into Terror of the Zygons.
But not the full program, because obviously it's all linked to clips from films and things like that. Maybe with our new friends at Disney, we might get a copy of it on DVD. I doubt it though.
Yeah. Just Jordan saying here, I haven't long finished watching Pyramids of Mars. I'm surprised he didn't do himself an injury with that scarf. I was saying this before we came on. I don't know how he managed to get through 7 years in a big coat and an incredibly long scarf under what were in those days incredibly hot studio lights, and a lot of them. It's so much more easier now in a studio. It's hardly a studio that I would know now, that, you know, and sometimes they have these strip lighting things which aren't that warm, really. It depends where you are. It's amazing.
The scarf itself became a bit of actor business for him, so it became it actually would have become useful for him because it just infused so much of the character, and it gave him something to do, to fling over his shoulder or whatever.
Yeah, I used to love when he did that kind of, he'd do that and Storm. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
There's that one scene where he does that in City of Death, and Lala's like, remember?
Or gets caught in the door or whatever.
Exactly.
Oh, that bit from Shadow's fantastic, but more of that tomorrow.
Yeah. There's a message here for you, Bedouin, from Andrew. Hi, Bedouin. I guess with a name like that, I guess you're Welsh. I'm from, where's that? Bargoed.
Bargoed, yeah. There's a few Bargoeds, so it could be any of a.
Well, it says it's one there where Green Death was filmed.
Yeah, so that was the old, I think it was Derry colliery, which is now long disused and doesn't really have much trace of it left, as you might have seen on, was it the season 10 box set when Stuart Bevan and Katie Manning revisited it.
Did it get turned into a housing estate, didn't it, or something like that?
Probably,
yeah.
That sounds unusual.
Raymond is saying here, after the Ark in Space aired, Tom's image was everywhere. The media loved him, and we loved him. Of course, Hinchcliffe knew how good Tom was because he saw the evidence month before. We have to remember as well that Philip Hinchcliffe came in with Tom, didn't he, really? Because Barry Letts cast Tom and then had to hand over to Philip. So Philip inherited a brand new Doctor. But I always remember reading that Philip Hinchcliffe had said to Tom something along the lines as, we're going on a great journey together. And by God, they did. They really, really did, didn't they? I want at this point to say hello to Lex, who will be watching us. Hi, Lex. Nice to see you. And thank you for commenting on the shows. And I hope you're enjoying this one as well. Give us a thumbs up. And jumping ahead, State of Decay was just epic. When I saw it as a kid, I was genuinely scared for the Doctor. This is one of the things about Tom's portrayal, wasn't it? You could get into as a kid, you could get into a position where you were worried about the Doctor if mummies were roaming around, or Sutek, or whatever, the androids in the android invasion. You could get a little bit worried about the Doctor, but for some reason you weren't. You knew Tom's Doctor was going to be all right. Do you know what I'm saying?
But
I
he
had a
played.
similar experience in Visible Enemy when he had the eyebrows and he was taken over by the nucleus. That scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
he played the danger with, again,
Mm.
verisimilitude. He pitched it perfectly. He didn't, these days it's just silly quips and things like that. But he would act like Seeds of Doom when he's in the meat, the crusher. That's actually probably, when I think about it as a kid, that was probably the scaredest I was watching Doctor Who, because that was a scary predicament. And he played, he played the fear. Even though he was this Time Lord who had seen everything, but he played the danger very, very well.
Yeah,
when Tom often plays kind of evil versions of himself, like Meglos or an android double and things like that, that's when you really get scared, because that's when your friends are in trouble because you don't know who to trust.
Yeah, or again in Seeds of Doom when he genuinely loses his temper at Scorby. What's going on? How do you know that, Doctor? Whatever he says, never mind how I know that, Scooby. Just take it from me. He's just, there's no, it's a genuinely unnerving moment.
He's particularly grumpy in Seeds of Doom, which I absolutely love.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think
real danger.
Sorry, Ian.
And violent. The way he deals with that show.
Does that to Scorby's fantastic.
Yeah. I think I don't mind that. I mean, when you look at Tom's performance, there is a development to Tom's performance. From when you look at the first season, he hits the ground running. There is no question about that. He's not bothered about backstory. He's got this part. He's got this wonderful character. He understands that it's good children's television. He obviously likes his scripts at that point as well. He's absolutely adoring Liz, and Ian as well. And he just gets on, and he runs, and that whole season, it's very hard to think there are 3 others before him.
No, that first season, I mean, the first story I saw of Tom was Genesis of the Daleks, because it's often repeated and whatever. But so much of that story is carried by Tom's serious acting, because he's really conveying the seriousness of the situation. His reaction to seeing a Dalek without a weapon, granted, but he recognizes it as a Dalek, and that's all just him acting it. And there's lots of scenes of him getting pushed around by Thals and Khalid's later on, and all that sort of stuff. But it's his acting and the cliffhanger that wasn't a cliffhanger really until Tom grabs a bit of the green plastic and holds it up to his neck and turns it into a really chilling cliffhanger.
He's brilliant in that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just stunning. And, later on, there'd be a few more jokes, but he had this alienness. But when it came to, I think he's really underrated as an actor. And so much of his portrayal of the Fourth Doctor is just down to his acting skills. And yes, there's an element of his natural, you'd say quirkiness now. But, he brought that alienness to the character that we didn't really have before. And, Michael said it, he is iconic. And it's a reason why the scarf is used, why it is Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor that appears in The Simpsons or whatever. He becomes this touchstone because it connects with an audience. It's, it's not, Doctor Who, the guy with the frilly shirt or the one with the really rubbish patchwork coat. It's the scarf because everyone connected to Tom because he was just incredible as not only a doctor but as an actor.
It's also an easy thing for the kids to dress up as. I remember a long scarf and a hat. I played Doctor Who in the back garden with my pals. So you did that. You could get the costume off the peg in the house.
Yeah.
And picking up on your point, Bedouin, people, Tom himself has often said, anyone can play Doctor Who. I just, they just play themselves. It's not. Yeah. You're absolutely right. He's a very, very skilled actor, and he does that thing that Peter Capaldi has often talked about in interviews about acting in general. So many actors become a character, whereas Tom allowed the character to become him. Yeah. So it was a different kind of emphasis, and so yes, a lot of that natural eccentricity was there with his own personality, but then elevating that character and meeting each other halfway is what I think what makes it work and makes it real.
It's Tom's skills. I know he got some superb scripts, he really did, but it's Tom's skills that helped to elevate to those. Here we are, 50 years on from when he got the job. We're still talking about Tom. 7 mighty years of superb performance, even on his off days. You know, he's just there at the top of his game. It's just incredible what he brought to this role. And it's no wonder he's become a British icon, not just a Doctor Who legend. If it hadn't been for Tom, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today still celebrating Doctor Who. If somebody else had got that role, we certainly wouldn't be, because they wouldn't have done what Tom did. I am absolutely convinced on that. I want to just say hello to Troy. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. The most iconic Doctor ever, he says. Hooray! Totally
Yay.
agree with that. Nice to see you, Troy. Thanks for joining us. George is also saying, get this, the cardigan that Tom wore in the original series was an off-the-shelf item for M&S because his dad had one.
Oh. Wouldn't that be great to go back and get one of those?
I bet George stole that off his dad to use as his cosplay as the Doctor. I bet he did. Yeah.
But you know what, though I vaguely remember in the 70s, those diamond patterned cardigans being around everywhere. I think my uncle had one.
M&S was selling them about 15 years ago because I picked one up.
They came back. Yeah, they came back.
It was identical. It was identical. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other iconic moments. I want to focus on a couple of things now, especially this. No other Doctor, no other actor, apart from Tom Baker, could deliver this line. Tom Baker could deliver this line. Do you know what I'm talking about here, guys?
Yeah.
Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens.
Yeah. One of the most incredible lines in Doctor Who history. No one else could deliver that line the way Tom does. And there's the cardigan.
I'll correct you slightly. I don't think anyone could have delivered it as well as Tom. Because
it's his line.
It's like the Matt Smith Pandorica speech. I've heard Sylvester McCoy do a version of that, which is quite good. No one could have done that particular speech from the Ark in Space as well as Tom.
Well, Philip Hinchcliffe says the same thing, doesn't he? He actually says that in an interview that he says John Pertwee, who he enormously respected as an actor, he said, but he couldn't have delivered it in the way that Tom did. And I love Pertwee. Pertwee and Tom, for me, are, up there together. But yeah, you're right. He would never come across with that same gravitas that Tom has.
No. I don't think anybody else could do. I mean, there was a line that he just grabbed, and his Doctor just, and it's a beautiful line as well, because it shows the alien quality of the Doctor, which I don't think anyone else has managed to capture as much as Tom did. And I think that scene itself, there he is in his second story. Bang.
Yeah, because he's talking to himself. And if you look at all the incarnations of the Doctor, Tom's the one you really think he's going to be talking to himself a little bit.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Tom's ability as an actor, he's the only one that can pull that off, isn't he? Possibly because he would talk to himself usually during the day anyway. But I don't think anyone else could talk to themselves the way that Tom does. And, it's wonderful.
That's how Deadly Assassin works.
It has to be. It's the voice. The voice is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I like Bedwyr said though with Matt Smith's Pandorica speech, and he delivers that fantastic. But he stood up, isn't he, with a low camera angle, whereas which makes him sort of like more prominent. Whereas Tom delivers this one fantastic, but it's a high angle looking down on him, but he still appears like he's a giant. The way he delivers that line, you just remember it. You just remember it word for word. You'll us sad geeky people will never forget that line. And it was beautiful strategic pauses in monologues like that. You'd see the massive brain working behind those eyes. Homo sapiens. And he'd stop and think and scoff, and you could see the thoughts. It was brilliantly done.
It really is.
He says it to Harry when they go through the decontamination, and Harry puts 2 and 2 together about something, and he says, your brain's starting to work. It's, entirely down to my influence, of course. Nothing.
Yeah, but that must have been such a culture shock for any of the older young people, or even the adults watching the Ark in Space after following Pertwee, because here's a completely different interpretation, a completely looking at. I mean, you cannot get more different. John Ed used to talk about contrast, didn't he? Pertwee and Tom. There's a huge example of a contrast. So here are all these people tuning in their millions for Ark in Space to watch the show. They think they know. They'll recognize it, but by God, the new guy is electric. And I think that's why the ratings went up and stayed up, because they just went, oh, hang on a minute, this guy's a bit edgy. Do you know what I'm saying?
It was a contrast, but intrinsically the same character. You didn't think, you didn't think, oh, this is not the same. You believed it because of, again, because
you did. Just Jordan's here with one of my favourite quotes as well. There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes. It's a Doctor Who quote that she thinks Tom very much lives by. I think you're absolutely right.
I think
we should all live by that, to be honest. It's a great one, that one. And Andrew's saying to us, Celtic Druid saying, I watched The Ark in Space with my dad. It's precious memories as my dad is no longer with us. And that's the brilliant thing about this as well, you know, because that is another reason that I think people like us of our age have such an affection for that golden age of BBC television, because we grew up with it, and we've all lost people around us as well that were there at the time. So you can go back and watch something now on a Blu-ray when it comes to Doctor Who, and those memories are still there. You do feel like you're 6, 7, 8 again, and you do remember certain things like being called in for your tea because Doctor Who's going to be on soon, you know. It's just Tom. I mean, it's very hard to say to anybody out in the UK or anybody who wasn't there at the time how big Tom was and how important he was to us. You know, you were always talking about Doctor Who, and it was a golden age. It was everywhere. His image was everywhere. We'll be looking at that shortly on the show as well. There's other things that are iconic as well. Now, this is something I know you like, Paul. This part of Genesis of the Daleks, this is huge, isn't it?
Well, Have I the Right speech is just, I hate to keep using this word iconic, but it's a fantastic speech. And again, a bit like Homo sapiens, really. And can you imagine another Doctor doing that particular speech? Because it is so iconic and such a great moment, you know. Even I think it was Bedweir that said it was about the Dalek mutant. Just prior to that, he's made that so convincing, and then you've got the lovely speech afterwards. It's such a great moment. It really is. I'm sure we all feel exactly the same about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it can't be beaten. You know, I think there'll be certain other actors that might go over the top, Ian. What do you think?
Yeah, they reused it though, didn't they, with Capaldi, with Davros? It was one of the clips that was on one of the screens in there.
Yeah.
You know, they knew when it was good. They knew what to go for.
It was obviously it was CCTV on Sky who obviously Davros filmed it and kept it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had brilliant throwaways, didn't he? He had brilliant little throwaway lines. I mean, in Sontaran Experiment, he's there being questioned by those Galsec astronauts.
Yeah.
And he says he's a traveling time expert, and he says different kinds of clocks, you know, quartz clocks, and they cut him off, and he just goes cuckoo clocks, and you just know it's a piss take of them, but he just delivers it deadpan and moves on.
One of my favorite lines in the Pyramids of Mars when he says, "Well, I have the advantage of being slightly ahead of you, sometimes behind you, but usually ahead of you." I mean, that to me says that's the Doctor, right there.
That is the Doctor, what it would be, and it's just those twinkle. He always had this playful twinkle in his eyes, didn't he? And the mystery that he brought into this role as well. It's there from his first season onwards. I just put up a comment there. I want to say hello to Davy Dredd, and he said Pyramids of Mars and the Robots of Death are brilliant Fourth Doctor stories that I love to watch. Here. Absolutely, you know, and we've done reviews of those on the Who's Views Reviews playlist. We've reviewed both of them, so go back and have a look at those if you want to laugh. Now, I also want to say, as I said, we've got a video here from our friend Mark, who wanted to say happy birthday to Tom. He can't join us tonight, but I'm going to play his video at this point here. So here's Mark to say happy birthday to Tom.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Who Cave. Sorry I couldn't be there this evening, but I just wanted to share a few words with you and also to wish Tom Baker a happy 90th birthday. Fantastic milestone. And quite clearly, my Doctor. I'm a kid of the 70s, growing up in Australia, watching Doctor Who on endless repeats on ABC television. But Tom Baker, John Pertwee and Peter Davidson were the ones that cycled through for me a lot. But what resonated with me was Tom. That fantastic long scarf, the teeth, the curls, the dress sense, and the portrayal that he made of that alien person that we all know as the Doctor, and the fantastic initial team of Sarah, Harry and the Doctor. Season 12 is my season. It's what I can watch over and over again, invokes some really good childhood memories, and that's why, hence, with the Who Cave, I surround myself with things of the past, things that remind me of those happy times in front of the television set. Revenge of the Cybermen is one of my favourite Tom Baker stories, along with Robot, along with Ark in Space and Genesis of the Daleks. all very good key stories for that first season and Sontaran Experiment. But these guys, the Cybermen, they're one of my favourites to collect. And every time I look at this, I keep thinking of that wonderful time I sat down and watched Revenge of the Cybermen and watched Tom Baker in action. So again, Tom Baker, happy 90th birthday. A fantastic effort, a wonderful actor, a great era of Doctor Who, which I will always go back to. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Mark, for that. Sending that over.
And
Wasn't
nice,
that
nice to see some Australian representation too, Mark.
We've got a lot of Australian representation on this channel. Thank you for everybody watching for us and joining us and subscribing to the channel. It's great to see everybody, and we love it. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. It's nice to see you all. But we are here to talk about Tom Baker on his 90th birthday. The fourth Doctor himself, the legend, the Doctor Who legend, British legend as well. Wow, what more can we say? I mean, it's just, where can we go with that? I want to talk now about the companions of Tom's era, because there's something unique with each one of them. We start, at the very beginning, of course, with Liz Sladen as the incredible Sarah Jane Smith. I'm going to get slightly emotional now talking about this, because this is really the happy time here for me. Of course, we had Sarah. We had Harry. I'm including the Brigadier. We had Louise Jameson as Leela. The late Mary Tam, God love her, as Romana. Lala as Romana. And he finished his run off, of course, with Matthew as Adric. What about these relationships with his companions? I mean...
Wait a minute, you missed someone out, haven't you?
Who?
A little dog.
Oh, the little dog, K9, I have actually,
What about Nissa and Tegan as well?
No, I'm not including Nissa and Tegan. I'm just including those that are on the list there.
Right.
K9 gets enough press as it is. So
Okay, fair enough.
I just want to concentrate on those, but no disrespect to John. He knows that. He knows I love him to bits. But I wanted to talk about the relationships with the humanoid type things more than anything else.
Okay.
I mean, we'll start off with Liz. I mean, what are the memories of these companions? Anybody have standout memories of these companions?
She gave you that continuity, didn't she, from Pertwee, and helped ease that transition. But the transition ended up not needing that much easing because he was so bloody good. But she was the perfect sidekick. She grounded him and just was the perfect foil. I mean, start of Pyramids of Mars, where he's standing there being very alien in the TARDIS and waxing lyrical about various things, and she's there in Victoria's old outfit, and she just puts that over her head. And, they just so many just ways that they play off each other without even needing words for it. She was just perfect. Can't say anything else about her, I don't think.
Yeah, no, the chemistry between them was extraordinary, and the realistic. You couldn't fake that.
Yeah.
Atom is saying here, some of the best of Tom Baker's Doctor was the banter between him and Mary Tam. They were at odds and yet brilliant together. The chemistry was so much different between them than Sarah and Leela. That's brilliant. That's what I'm trying to get at here, because Tom adapted for each of the companions that came along. It was. You do look at it, when you can see it now through the DVDs, through the Blu-rays. The Doctor changes. He changes his Doctor to suit every companion that comes near him. So that's what I wanted to look at here. Anyone else got more to say on that?
Well, I love Sarah, and she is probably the best Doctor companion in my eyes. But when she was paired off with Harry, on paper you wouldn't think that would work, but the dynamic of the three is fantastic, and I don't think Ian Marter gets is enough love for his contribution to the first series of Tom, and I think they work brilliantly together as a group of three. And when it's a shame Ian didn't get longer, but we would have got less of Sarah and Tom on their own, which is fantastic. But I think you should get more love, Harry and Sarah and Tom together, definitely.
Yeah, it's a combination that works, wasn't it, Ian?
Yeah, Harry Sullivan, though, if he'd stayed on, he would have chinned Scorby in Seeds of Doom. It'd been pushing Sarah around, and he'd have just knocked him out.
Yeah,
he would have. But that three, like Paul said, they were wonderful. They were great stories.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
not enough words for it.
Yeah.
Great stories, great times.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it is difficult. I mean, we're here to gush unashamedly as the Doctor Who geeks we are about Tom and his mighty 7 years in the role. But when you look back, what a body of work! But it's actually very difficult because you do get slightly emotional about this because we're wading through our childhood. These were special days. This is a story every 4 or 6 weeks, which would take you out of the mundane life of 1970s Britain and what you had to do every day and going to school and dealing with your maths and learning your homework and being threatened with not being allowed to watch Doctor Who unless you learned your 4 times table. It was one of these, all these magical, maybe that's just me, it was just all these magical times, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, it's not just
It's still it's still like that to this day. So yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't around in the 70s, 80s, but but seeing clips and being wee and learning more about it as well, absolutely love Leela and Lala's Romana Mark II. That I just wish we had a companion like that nowadays, and that chemistry and the bounce off. We've had some brilliant ones in New Who, but nothing like what we had in Classic Who. That, again, you're right, just Tom melted to each one of them. And just seeing clips as a child and being on the tube of Hugh, being like, this is really cool. And like, we don't get, especially companions like that anymore, that they were tough, but also they needed each other.
Yeah.
And the character and the personality, that it was just a personality and not just a mould to fit around the Doctor. They were their own person as well, and seeing it through their eyes and their adventures. I could rant about beautiful.
Sorry,
no, go for it.
No, they were a great foil for his character, but they didn't put him down.
Yeah.
Do you think?
You didn't see any of them saying, "I'll smack you so hard you'll regenerate"? Did you?
That's right.
Oh no, none of that nonsense was there.
That's what I mean. There's a difference between holding him to account and smugly putting him down, belittling the character.
Absolutely, because it's interesting to hear Kirsty here, because Kirsty, of course, is discovering proper Doctor Who, as I call it. Others call it classic, but she's discovering this. It's interesting to say that you liked Leela and Romana Incarnation 2. What was it about those two that get you?
They were strong, and you don't want a person to put you down. You want someone to tell you, be honest about it and tell you how it is, but also you want someone that you could laugh with, see the pain maybe they go through, see their triumphs, see the fall, and you want someone to take you away on all these adventures through space and time, and you'd want to be brave like them as well. And that's what I just saw in both of them, and learning more about them as well. I really sort of, as much as Sarah Jane is an absolute cult icon, classic, chef kiss for everyone, I was more drawn to Leela and Lala's Romana as well, just with that, what they brought. I was just more drawn into and kind of brought into their adventures. And I can't wait to see
hear it from it is interesting to hear it from young people, Bedouin, and I include you in that.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. No, I think it's really interesting, as Kirsty was saying, the not putting down, but actually the whole point of the Dr. Leela relationship is he's lifting her up. He's educating her. It's the Pygmalion thing of, we've already mentioned the Robot of Death. What a great story that is. But there's that scene in the TARDIS where he's explaining how it can be bigger on the inside to Leela so that she can understand it, and so the rest of us can try and understand it. It's just a great scene. It doesn't add anything to the story on the Sand Mine or anything like that, but it's a lovely point of him teaching. And later, Romana's both incarnations are kind of teaching him a bit, and it's how that dynamic changed. I mean, I was keeping quiet when we were talking about Liz, because I'll get too emotional, and because for me, Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane Smith is peak. That's it. That's as good as it gets. Because I always think one Doctor, one companion is the dynamic that works the best. Personally, yeah, I love the episodes with Harry and all that sort of stuff. But again, we've mentioned Pyramids of Mars, where the two of them walk around the corner, see the mummies, come back and go around the other way. It's just seamless and just absolutely beautiful. It doesn't again add anything, but it tells you everything about those two characters and that relationship. And yeah, absolutely legendary, iconic. There are not enough superlatives to describe their dynamic.
It's interesting, as I say, the dynamics that Tom has with each of his leading ladies here, because I remember noticing the difference when Romana comes along, played by the late beautiful Mary Tam, a God lover. Gosh, we've lost so many, haven't we? When you think about it, it's. But when Romana comes along, and the Doctor's faced with a companion that's a Time Lord, Time Lady, he sort of shows a sign where he's thinking, hang on a minute, not happy with this. So I'm going to, I'm going to take the pee out of you for a little. I'm going to have a bit of fun. So when she says her name is Romana at Vortralunda, he says, well, that won't do. I'll just call you Fred. And it starts from that moment on, doesn't it?
It's that comparing qualifications, She had a triple first from the academy, and scraping through with 51%. It's
and she let him know, didn't she? She's combing her hair.
Yeah, exactly. That's another new dynamic that we hadn't seen before, and it's great. It's just such good television to watch.
Yeah, and they get it, don't they? Whatever was going on behind the scenes, it doesn't matter because it doesn't really come off on camera. Whereas some of these things they do today, it does come on camera. That certain things might become. They didn't because they were magical. And it's just the way that Tom manages to say, right, how is my Doctor going to react to this one? What's going to happen here? So you go from, as you're saying, Budweir, you go from the Savage and the educating of the Savage, and that beautiful moment in Invasion of Time where he says goodbye to her. It's quite abrupt on Gallifrey, but as soon as he closes the door, you see a Doctor that's like, oh, ouch. He plays it lovely. He pushes the door closed, doesn't he? Yeah. I'll miss you too, Savage. Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful. Hello to Digby Strawbridge. Good evening. Who's News? Happy birthday to the definitive Doctor. And Stephanie is here to say, I'm so grateful that in Australia we got to see all Tom's episodes repeated over and over, weeknights for most of each of the year, along with Pertwee, Davison, Collins, right up to the mid-80s. You were all so lucky. Troy is saying, Talons used. Yeah, Troy is saying Talons used to make him crap his pants.
He's not the only one.
It still has that effect on some people, but not for the same reasons.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Exactly. And Blue Worm. Hello to Blue Worm. Welcome to Who's Views. It's nice to see you. If you haven't already, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. Tom's just as alien as the character he played. It's a perfect symbiosis. That sums that up beautifully. It really, really is. And that makes me think, once a new leading lady comes into the show, that symbiosis there that you're suggesting, Blue Worm, I wonder if that informed his character on how the Doctor would react to this latest one. It is interesting because the differences are there, and you can see the differences between Tom's Doctor and all his companions.
I think we haven't really mentioned Adric, and we should give Matthew Waterhouse a bit of a shout out.
Let's say hello to Matthew in case he's watching. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Matthew. What would you like to say about him?
Well, because I mean that kind of been an easy dynamic to have come into with Tom and Lala off camera. The scenes on location of State of Decay where they just won't even look at each other, and being in the middle of that kind of been easy, but one experience to work with Tom Baker,
who was his hero as well.
Yeah, as he's drawing to an end this epic era of the Fourth Doctor. It's another dynamic because it's a younger male character than we've seen with Ian Marter and Lethbridge Stewart in Robot, etc. So it's adding again and giving Tom something else and another dynamic to work with, and this was the companion he could put his arm around at least.
Well, yes, although probably not today. But anyway, in those days, yes, it was absolutely fine. You mentioned him there. I do want to do that because the relationship between Tom and Nick Courtney, was incredible off screen. They were such good pals. They had a laugh with each other. And although Nick was in it for a minute of time, really, when you think about it all, with Tom, my God, the impact is there. Because even from Robot, Tom understands that Nick's character, the Brigadier, is important, doesn't he? And there's that reverence, if you like, between Tom's portrayal of the Fourth Doctor to Nick. And he's got it down, again, he's got it down easy. He's just like, I know where you're coming from, and this is where my Doctor's coming to. And Nick just responds beautifully, doesn't he? It's magic to see.
Such a shame that Nick Courtney wasn't available for Android Invasion and Seeds of Doom, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, there's scenes in Terror of the Zygons are fantastic. You know, when Tom's got the hat over his face, and the Brigadier's telling him how the gravity of the situation is. Brigadier, did you bring me all this way to talk about a little trouble at sea?
It's when he first spots the Brigadier in a kilt, and he says, "What's that?
What's that?
Which is
Suits you very well."
Yeah, but it's that line from Liz on the top of all that, because these two are having this banter, and then Sarah Jane says, she says on the back of this, "Oh, I thought you were doing a Doctor." And flip the scarf. Beautiful stuff.
But then he turns on a dime and he says, just all that humor stops like that, and he pulls him aside, "Brigadier, why have you called me back? I hope you've got a good reason." And it's like, oh, hang on, he's pissed off here. Sorry. Yeah. He's annoyed, and the gravity shifts in an instant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. It's that whole thing, though, because there is part of him that's pleased to see his old friend. And we've got to remember, this is his old friend. At this point, the Brigadier is probably his oldest friend to date, because he's been there since the second incarnation. Yeah. And then he spent God knows how long stuck with the third one, and then this one's come along. And I just love the way Nick plays this as it goes, it's all in a day. This one's different again. I mean, the chemistry between the two of them.
Here we go again, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Saw it happen this time.
Yeah. Blinking, you miss it. But again, it just shows you how good they were off screen, because they're bringing this in and they're playing it so wonderfully, aren't they?
The Brigadier plays it, or Nick Courtney plays it, though, absolutely as it is. Although he looks different and acts different, it is the same person that he's known since Yetis in the Underground. He's built that relationship, he's built that rapport with this character, and although he changes, the Brigadier knows more than anybody that it's the same person, and he just does it flawless, absolutely flawless. Nick Courtney.
That's a really interesting part. I don't think the way the Brigadier reacts to the Doctor changes at all, really, does it?
No.
Although he seemed to be more tolerant of Tom in Robot, because he gets on his nerves a little bit. And when he blows that dandelion in his face, that's fantastically funny.
I love that.
I love that bit as well. But again, but you're right. I mean, there is something about how Nick plays this, and the Brigadier himself it's just another day, and he's seen things by this point as well. He's already seen two versions of this, or three if you count the version in the Three Doctors, and he knows that the Doctor can do this. To see it happen for him, he doesn't have to go through all that "prove to me you are who you are" thing, because he's seen it, and it's as though now it's just so British with it as well.
Well, yeah,
it's
he's come to terms with it in his own head. And if it makes sense to him, just carry on and worry about whatever.
Why shouldn't it make sense to everybody else?
Yeah. There's a lovely bit in Robot where I think the Doctor's in the infirmary recovering, and they're walking on the corridor and they're talking about the Doctor, and he talks about his experiences with the faces. The last time I saw him, I hadn't seen him for months, and he turns up with a different face. Oops, a different face. So it's kind of that was in my face there. A different face, and it's a lovely reminiscence of his experience with the Doctor, which comes across really, really warmly, I think.
Yeah. I just love the way that Tom comes into this, grabs the role, does it the way he wants to, but still gets on with those around him that he's inherited in that first story, especially. And he doesn't get to see them at all, really, because Terror of the Zygons, Android Invasion, it's not. But for Tom and the players, it is the same. They are there. And Tom's there to go, I know who you are, and this is brilliant, and let's have a party. Yeah, and that comes through in the characters, I think. And the Fourth Doctor, while being the wanderer in time and space again that we know about, he is quite pleased to see them in a sense, although he's rebelling in a sense against the whole unit setup, isn't he? I don't want to be there. I don't want to go and see the Queen. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I want to gel a baby and I want to go out there. I love it. I just think it's worth mentioning that there's two greats, Tom and Nick together, even off screen. If you ever met them at conventions, a bit mischievous when they were in the same room together. There was definitely a banter between the two of them there. And again, that showed how Nick was so good playing with all these particular people that were just thrown with him. You know, he loved every minute of it around him. But those two were quite mischievous, you know, real twinkles there. I don't know if any of you guys saw them together.
I didn't.
No.
I wish.
Sadly, no.
Oh, I've got, talking of that, who's met Tom? Has anybody met Tom here? I know that Phil did. And again, Michael, yeah, we'll come to you. And Phil's given us a video. So I'm just going to play Phil's video of his time with Tom.
I would have first met Tom Baker around the turn of the century. I just got to university and he was doing a signing arranged by Galaxy 4 at Sheffield Hallam. So I was going deep into enemy territory because I was at the proper uni. Anywho, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd come from kind of rural Leicestershire and we didn't really have sort of meetings with celebrities there at the time. So I didn't take anything to be signed or anything. I bought some postcards while we were there. And I was queuing with one of my new housemates and trying not to look like a geek because obviously at this point you're still trying to get, you know, everybody to like you and stuff. So I was managing to play it quite cool in the queue, and, you know, sort of in the distance I could see this old man who looked a bit like the man that I'd seen in Doctor Who on the video cassette. And I was doing really, really well until it was my turn and I handed him the postcards I just bought and he did that kind of noise. And at that point I was like, oh my God, this is actual Doctor Who. And I think at that point I couldn't talk anymore. And then my housemate at the time, he came in and he was just like, I don't know who you are, but I think Phil wants you to sign these. And at that point he then kind of led me away. And that's my overwhelming memory of the first time I met Tom Baker.
I'm sure many people, Phil, had that. 'Cause when you did meet Tom, he was so big, and he still is. He's just a presence, you know. He's just wow, isn't it? You know, what were your experiences of meeting Tom, guys?
Well, I've mentioned many times before on this channel about my Pescatons LP, and I met him when I was 9, and I was in awe like Phil was when I was 9. But I agree, if I met him now, I'd be much the same as I was when I was 9 because he's such a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him in John Menzies, like I said, back in '76, and he signed my record. That was lovely. But I had been in his presence twice after that, but never actually met him face to face. I met him at a small scale local group meeting in Glasgow, and then at his book signing the audience with Tom for Who on Earth is Tom Baker. But being in his presence at any time was wonderful.
It really was. I mean, you felt that you were in the presence of a magician. You know, there is that he has this essence, this quality to him. I mean, he talks about the Doctor as a mystery, but even though you know parts of Tom's life, he's a mystery as well. He has that ability to be able to walk into a room and for everybody to go, oh!
He's a fascinating man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, you also met Tom.
Yeah, I did. So my dream was to live in the UK for a time, and when I finally got over there, I think I'd only been there for a month, and I went along to an event, and there he was, and it was the same thing, you know, as soon as you hear the voice, and got a photo with him, and then
well, you got a couple actually from different events, because look at this.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so the one on the right there is the first time I met him, and then later on, I think that, you know, a few months later, there was another event. I think it was a 10th Planet event, and so I went along, and he was there, and you know, I got the more portrait style photograph and the autograph and that sort of thing. But he was so lovely. I walked in, the one on the left there. I walked in, and I was wearing, you know, that black coat there. And as soon as I walked in, he said, "You look very fashionable." And I said, "Oh, thank you." Yes. He says, "Yes, you look very good in black." I said, "Oh," and I didn't know. I was like you, Phil. I was like, and I didn't know what to say. And I said, "Oh, thank you. You look very good in burgundy." And he just says, "Yes, yes, I suppose I do. I was looking, look, and I didn't know what to say, and I said, I'd recently been to the Stamp Centre in the Strand, and I'd seen the first character options figures. And I said, well, I saw your action figure for the first time the other day. I says, very good likeness. And he literally, and forgive the impression, but he literally did that doctor-y thing of and then he said, I'm sure I'm getting paid for that somewhere. and he was just lovely. He was just so nice. Yeah.
I would hope he did get paid for that. While we're talking about this, Michael, explain yourself here.
That was after the day after I was released. No, that's me being an utter
surprise.
That's me being an utter knob. No, that was that's 20 years. That was the 40th anniversary at ABC Studios, which is our version of the BBC, on ABC Brisbane Radio with Spencer Howson. Shout out to Spencer Howson. He's an icon of Brisbane radio and a huge Doctor Who fan. He's been a big supporter of Doctor Who. And he did a 40th anniversary special, and we came along and we sort of did some role playing and so on, and basically just making a tit of myself. But yeah, it was fun. It was good fun. It was like, it's just, being the Doctor and playing the Doctor very badly. And yeah, that was it. It was good memories, though. It was nice to see a life-size mock-up TARDIS and dress up as Tom. But I think that's I don't do that sort of, don't dress up like that these days.
It's amazing how many people do, though, isn't it? Because, you still see a lot of the cosplayers, as we call them now, dressed as, various versions of Tom's outfit then, Tom's Doctor.
It's funny, during that, because we did a thing at the ABC shop, and they were handing out prizes and the cassette tapes read by Tom, the missing episodes. And I was being an idiot and being the Doctor and, oh, hello, I'm the Doctor, and making a fool of myself. And these kids came up to me. They thought I was the Doctor. And I realized, hang on, I've got to actually do what Tom does, follow his example, and not patronize them and be the Doctor. So for that very, very brief moment, I got to experience what Tom experienced. I couldn't believe it. I thought they were making fun of me. And no, they actually think I'm the Doctor. So bless them. So if they're watching, hi, I'm not Tom.
But Drea, you met Tom, didn't you?
Yeah, I've met him a few times at events and stuff, and much like everyone else, really, it's that you immediately realize you're in the presence of greatness, and just the aura that the man has. I'll never forget a great example of just his hold over us as an audience, really, was when we had the celebration event in the XL Centre in 2013 for the 50th anniversary. And the ovation that Tom got on stage when he appeared to do his panel. And, I don't know what the capacity of the room was, but several thousand people just in awe of this man. And he captivated every single one of them. And it's whether it was a massive arena like that, or whether it was just one person with, will you sign my target book? He had that same connection to that individual or that group of people. It's just, he's a phenomenal person, just incredible.
It's wonderful to hear that at the 50th as well. There he was, just being greeted like that, because some of those people that would have been there probably wouldn't have been aware of him at that point, because they would have been coming into the show.
And watching the Day of the Doctor special, when his voice boomed over the speakers, again, in this big auditorium, watching it with thousands of people, it was the biggest noise of the entire episode, was Tom being back in the 50th. And, I'm getting hairs on the back of my arm standing up. It's just electric that you can't really describe to someone who doesn't get this stuff. But it's so genuine and so real for all of us on the panel, but everyone watching.
Totally.
Doctor Who and Tom.
Watching Day of the Doctor with that reaction, Bedweer, must have been amazing. to get that audience reaction together. Because I remember watching it with a friend of mine. That was, that was good enough for that. But with a full audience,
well, it brought certain.
I turned down a
brought
ticket
certain
to
grown
watch
men to tears, didn't it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I turned down a ticket to watch it at the BFI alongside John Hurt, Stephen Moffat, and everyone, all the poor sods who had to do the after party show. But to actually have that shared experience with so many people was incredible, and something that will live with me for a long, long time.
It was a funny moment, wasn't it? But where you kind of thought you hear because he did the first line off screen, and you think, oh, okay, they just done a soundbite. He's not really in it because he never turns up, And then when he appeared, I thought, my God, they got him back. It was that was a shock.
But as I say, that was for me on that show. That was the highlight, getting Tom back after all that time, and you just knew it was him the moment that voice comes through. And that was a powerful, as I say, certain grown men were crying at that point, and because we were connecting with our youth. It was just incredible.
And a big shout out to Matt Smith too, by all accounts. Tom said himself, who was incredibly accommodating and very, very nice to Tom. And from what Tom said, paid him a little bit more attention than perhaps other members of the production team. So that was, big shout out to him for giving him the respect that he deserves.
Yeah. And they work beautifully together as well, don't they? Both Matt and Tom bounce off each other really lovely, don't they?
Yeah. There's a whole load of stuff. I'd like to see those two doing something. I mean, we've probably missed out on that now. But a lot of that was improv. I'm sure a lot of that was Tom. How do you do? And all this sort of stuff. And Matt gets it, doesn't he? It's just amazing. And again, to be slightly romantic, there's a meeting of generations there. And there's something akin. There's two very talented actors understanding their craft there, understanding what the other's doing and being on a level. Because that was one of the things about Tom, wasn't it? A lot of guest artists would come in and go, oh, it was Tom. Oh, it was Tom. And words to that effect, oh, it was Tom. But Matt seems to be on. It's such a special one. Timescales is here, everybody. I want to say hi to Timescales. When he turned on the TV and watched Horror Fang Rock in 1979, having no idea was Doctor Who, what Doctor Who was, he had no idea that 45 years later, people would be talking about that curious lead actor at 90. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's all credit to Tom as well. And as I say, if it hadn't been for Tom, I don't think we would be here talking about Doctor Who today. That man carries so much responsibility for the longevity of Doctor Who. 7 mighty years, and then a few that followed him. Just incredible. Hello to Libro Paradiso. Hi there. Nice to see you. Leela's parting is wonderfully painful. Yes, and played beautifully, as mentioned there by Tom. I mean, that dark TARDIS. Oh, and here's one from George. Mary Tam adored Tom. She told me that if a director or producer was giving her beep, 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 she would turn around, he would turn around and shut them down with, who do you think you are? I did a year with Tom Baker. I see what you're saying. It's like Lala's famous all those years after. It's like Lala's famous comment, isn't she, when she was asked who her favorite Doctor Who monster was, and she would say Tom Baker, which he would laugh at. Cyberman Strikes is here as well. Tom Baker, the definite article. Totally is. And
well, as Matthew Waterhouse said, you say what you want about Tom Baker, he's not a fake.
No, definitely not.
No, you get Tom the way he is. He was always honest, wasn't he? But he adored the show. We're going to come to that in a second as well. Tom's episodes were the ones I'd record the audio of before home video recorders. So if I listened to Tom before falling asleep. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Paul and I mentioned that on our Pescatons review as part of this Tom Baker at 90 season. We talk about that because we listened to the Pescatons practically every night when we were kids. So it was Tom that would fall asleep. There it is. There, it's available now on 2 playlists actually. The Sound of Whozik and our Tom at 90 playlist. Nothing like a good plug. Cybermatch Strikes is saying, I like the Adric and Tom dynamic.
I think he works better with Tom than he does with Peter. I think it's probably the age difference, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. And Blue Captain Jack is saying, I only met Tom once, helping him work out his iPhone after Nick's memorial, which I helped to organise.
Wow.
That's a lovely story. Nice to see you. Thanks for sharing that with us, because I'm sure that was quite an emotive event there as well for that. But again, that magic. I love watching the episodes that Nick's in with Tom. Personally, I can watch them all day because there's just something about that chemistry that's just magical and beautiful. And Oh, I don't know. It's just fabulous. George is saying here, Peter, I fell off the sofa. That's to Pete Harrington. I fell off the sofa laughing when Tom said to Mary on a commentary after she asked for top up. Ooh, darling, I've wanted to top you up since 1979. Cheeky of him, yes. Just Jordan is saying, adored Nick Courtney. Oh, and what's this from Peter? What's this? I bowed to Lalla Ward after getting her autograph and said, "My lady." She laughed. Well, she is in real life and on telly. She is. Yeah. Yes, and I was surprised when she never turned up in Downton Abbey, personally. JP Thorne, nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Lovely to see you. Happy 90th birthday to the fourth and most iconic Dr. Tom Baker. Absolutely. But you're very welcome. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's great to see you all here on our Tom Baker Unashamed Fest for his 90th birthday, which is, of course, today, as we are broadcasting live. I hope he's had a lovely day. I hope somebody gave him some jelly or a bit of cake. And I hope he's had a really lovely day on this one. I've got to do this. Pete's saying it. The iconic line, "Was that a big enough bang for you, Brigadier?" It's amazing how that line turned up in various things in the 90s, but we won't go into that much more. Okay, now I want to talk about, as part of Tom's portrayal, we mentioned it a little bit earlier as well, but I want to get all your takes on this. Now, Tom brought back the alien quality in Doctor Who, didn't he? And Paul, you reminded me of a particular line which is now famous from City of Death, isn't it? And you've got it there with you. When the Doctor's talking, come on, tell us about this, because I know this is one of your personal favourites.
Well, I think it's probably a lot of people's personal favourites because it just shows the Doctor's lack of interest in the opposite sex, which is wonderful. But already sex, yeah. When he says to Catherine Shell in City of Death, trying to work out why the Count's attracted to her, and he says, "You're a beautiful woman, probably," which is a great line, and I think it's so iconic. Again, it's just a fantastic moment of the Doctor not having a clue about relationships in that respect on the hanky-panky side, as J&T would say.
And also, no interest. No interest.
He's no interest at all.
No interest. He's interested in grander things.
Yeah. He's more interested in the Hamlet first edition than Catherine Shell.
As most boys watching him at that point would have been.
Yeah,
because we didn't care about all that sort of stuff until you get to a certain age, and it sort of clicks in. But the Doctor, they all go bang on about representation and all that nonsense today, but Tom's Doctor was representing the children, the innocence of the children, the wide-eyed, travel in time and space, wasn't he, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely, he was. And he was right on with it. He knew exactly what his audience was. He knew that the adults could cope for it themselves. The adults didn't need any kind of particular attention from him in that role. He knew it was the kids, and he, as has been said before, he never talked down to them. He went on their level, and they loved him for it. We loved him for it, which is, let's say, why we're here now.
There are some great adult lines in City of Death, though, but I'm sure no one can be as stupid as he seems and things like that. Fantastic.
Oh, what a wonderful butler. He's so violent.
Yeah, exactly.
3 glasses of water make them doubles.
Duggan, put that. That's a Louis Cam. Put that down.
It's
a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
It is. I mean, Tom delivers these lines, and it's obvious that and we're going to be talking more about this tomorrow on Who's Views when we look at Sharda. But it's absolutely obvious that he loved the Douglas Adams script because of the lines that were coming through to him, and he plays them brilliantly, doesn't he?
That's my job. You see, I'm a thief. And this is Romana. She's my accomplice. And this is Duggan. He's the police officer who's been very kind enough to arrest us. Our lines of work dovetailed beautifully. So good.
Oh gosh, it is absolutely. It's magical, even just quoting them, isn't it? Because the smile from all of us is there.
I've got to say, and that sort of that style, that milieu that he had with adversity, for me personally, helped me deal with a lot of bullies at school, because he would baffle the adversary with alleged stupidity or oddball behavior, but it was concealing what was really going on in his mind as a sort of a smokescreen. So I kind of not that I was ever in that league, but it helped me kind of that attitude helped me a lot at school.
Hang on. Sorry about this. I've just pressed the wrong button. Carry on.
At some point.
Oh, how do we do that?
Just hold your horses, Phil. I'm talking, mate. I'm talking, Phil. Just wait. So.
I think Phil's been on the drink. He's had a few bevies.
It's the time, Eddie. He's just popping in and out.
So impatient.
Yeah. No, but just to finish what I was saying, Tom was such a great leadership role model. He I don't know. I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. He helped certain kids through difficult times, and he was someone to look up to. And for that, if nothing else, I thank you, Mr. Baker. For being such a role model.
The bravery, if he can do it, I can do it. Sorry.
Yeah. It was okay to be a little different and odd and not quite fit in.
Yeah, it's true, actually, isn't it? The magic was there because of that, and that's what Doctor Who during Tom's time was truly accessible to all, which is something they're struggling to do today, even though they're all saying they're doing that. This Doctor Who, you can still watch this today. You can still watch Tom's Doctor and get something from it today. A new audience is coming to this. People like Kirsty, for example, and of course, people like our very own Phil's kids. We've had one of them, the lovely, lovely Zach, who said happy birthday to Tom earlier. Here's our other youngest Who viewer. It's Teddy.
Happy birthday, Tom Baker. Would you like a jelly, baby?
Oh, bless.
But it's all still there, isn't it? I mean,
looking in a mirror.
It's still there. Tom's Doctor is still grabbing the attention all these years later, 50 years later. It's still grabbing the young ones, and they're still coming into it. They're getting involved with his characterization. They're getting involved with his stories, and they're believing him. They're believing that Tom is the Doctor. And I've seen this in front of me as well with the younger ones. When there's something to do with Tom Baker around it, they're all the same as we were.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. That I grew up with New Who, but then knowing about this as well, you think Doctor Who. I do think of the scarf, the jelly baby, him, the hat, and as well, nowadays, if you say, "Oh, I'm a fan of Doctor Who," like I've been in places and situations before that I will start talking nerdy, and it's like, I just spew out of it. And in certain situations, people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But it's not as cool nowadays as it was with him, that you could be, I can be as brave as the Doctor and happily go out and play and just sit and talk shop for hours. But nowadays it's not that accessible, as you're saying, and cool anymore. And it's just a shame, because I grew up with that, and went to the exhibition in May, and just watching a grown man, my dad, crumble as if it was Christmas again, is just absolute magic. And it needs more of that again, and that accessibility, and bringing it down to that I would want it, Doctor Who being around for kids in the next 10, 20, 30 years, that special quality that Tom still has. And we're talking about this X amount of years later. We're not going to get that, and we really should go back to that and just go back to the drawing boards and just bring it back.
Well, I want to come back to your dad in a second, but I just want to say hello to Dino V here. Thank you for joining us on this special show for Tom's 90th birthday. Tom was my first ever childhood hero. When I met him, he was an amazing as his Doctor Who character. He signed loads of stuff, chatted for ages, and sent my daughter and I a Christmas card and letter. Wow. Now that's Tom. That is just magical of Tom, isn't it? And I can see him actually doing that, because he was so committed to his audience and so wonderful. We are going to be coming very soon to the results of our season survey, if you like, that we held on the channel. Stay with us for a second. But Kirsty, you mentioned your dad there, and I think we should say hello to him. What's your dad's name?
John.
John, it's lovely to see you. There he is there with Davros. And that was at the Doctor Who exhibition that was recently at Liverpool. Then it moved to Edinburgh, and it is now moving to New Zealand. So if you're down in New Zealand, you're going to get a chance to see all these wonderful exhibits from Doctor Who, because it's down there. We'll be coming back to that. I'm sure we'll let you know more about. I'm sure you know where it's going to be anyway. I'm sure they've started marketing. But there he is.
It was brilliant, and like the job I have. So I was in and out of the museum, and I saw the scarf, and it was like, oh, like Mirage. I was like, that's his Christmas present. And then he proudly, when I got us tickets to go to the exhibition, it was just magic. I don't have kids, but it was as if it was like having a kid. That excitement, as if Christmas was coming or your birthday was coming up, that we went in, and it was, the pair of us were just giddy. But when he was seeing stuff from his childhood and like Tom's screwdriver and stuff that he, like when he was little, it was just priceless. And we really should get back to that quality of young and old meeting together instead of just bashing each other. It's just beautiful, and it's a memory that will stay with me forever. And that's why I'm here as well, because of it being brought down, and I wish I would be able to bring it down again, but who knows? So yeah.
It's great to see. I mean, your dad is probably our age, so it's nice to see him. Hello, mate. I hope you enjoyed the exhibition, and it's nice to have those photos. And thank you for letting us say hello to you with your photograph there.
I went to the same exhibition in Edinburgh, and I went with my friend who's the same age as me. And as Kirsty said, we were like kids. We were like 5-year-olds running around, touching buttons and inside Daleks, all that kind of stuff. It was great stuff. Like being 5 again, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's heading to New Zealand, and you're going to get to see it down there. And I'm hoping then that the logical thing then to do would be to take it over to Australia. So Michael and Mark and all of you in Australia could see it as well. That's the logical thing to do. Anybody watching from BBC Studios? But listen, I want to say a huge thank you to our pal Gary Bryant, who's a regular here on Whose Views. I think he's in the chat. I'm not sure. Kirsten, I don't know if you've seen him. But Gary Bryant... Well, Gary, this was your idea, so huge thank you. Because after our first part of our Tom Baker shows last week, where we were talking about some of our favourite moments of Tom out of Doctor Who, Gary got in touch with me and said, why not ask all the Who viewers what their favourite Tom Baker season of Doctor Who is? Cracking idea. So that's exactly what we do. So the poll started last Monday. It finished this afternoon at 3:30. And as they say, the results are in, and here they are. Season 12 got 20%, season 13 49%, season 14 25%, season 15 6%, season 16 36%, season 17 38%, and season 18 26%. So a huge round of applause and congratulations to season 13 with a massive 49% of votes. And I have to tell you as well, that is from 143 votes from Who viewers. So thank you. It was on our community tab. And I know a lot of people don't know where these things are. So if you found it and you voted, thank you. They're on the community tab. So we're going to be adding little bits on there every now and then as well. Publicity, notes to you, all that sort of stuff. But this, guys, season 13, 49% of the 143 votes. I've got some comments here from some of the Who viewers. Thank you so much to everybody that voted. Hollomouse said he was currently rewatching Key to Time. Denny Ring AS 4927 said Key to Time, it was a favorite, and Genesis of the Daleks is a classic. Joshua, thank you for your comment. Hard topic, as I love them all. Pootle 5096 gave me a memory. Sat on his granddad's knee even every Saturday, but it was season 17 that turned him into a fan. Gibson 1976 UK, season 13, my favorite of all time. And Jack Dexter 9439 voted for season 18 as a clear winner. Amazing stuff. So yeah, you voted season 13, 49% is the Who viewers' favorite Tom Baker season. Reactions to that, guys? Can you see why? Let's remind ourselves. Season 13, Terror of the Zygons, Planet of Evil, Pyramids of Mars, The Android Invasion, The Brain of Morbius, and The Seeds of Doom. And it's not yet out as a Blu-ray collection box set.
I think that'll be the last one that comes out because it's probably one of the best, as the viewers have said.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned earlier that this combination of Tom Baker and Liz Sladen is peak, and I think that just proves it, because the stories you've reeled off, Terror of the Zygons is a bit more of a unit story. But then you've got Planet of Evil, Brain and Morbius, Pyramids of Mars. Just the two of them working together, which peaks at the end with the Seeds of Doom, and it's that combination of Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith, which is just iconic, and it's peak. That's as good as it ever got, in my opinion.
It's the high watermark, isn't it?
I'm quite surprised in the poll that season 14 wasn't higher up, actually, but season 13 is a cracking series.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that season 15 only got 6%, as that's the next box set. But equally, I'm surprised that season 12, which also is superb, has only 20%. So
I find it very difficult to differentiate. The 12, 13, and 14 are my favourite of his run. Yeah. I find it very difficult to put 12, 13, or 14 in order. And I think if there was a gun to my head, I would probably say season 14 is my favourite, because you start with Mask of Mandragora, which is gorgeous. You have a couple of Liz, and then you have what I think is amazing Deadly Assassin, and then you're straight into Louise Jameson, and you're coming up to Talons of Weng Chiang, and you've got Robots of Death in there. I just think that is just a fantastic set of stories, but it's very, very close with 13 and 12.
It's hard to differentiate. You've almost got to put the Philip Hinchcliffe years together and just say that's the high watermark right there.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for season 18. I must admit. I know some people are not as fond of it, but I just find that season. I guess it was probably the first one I saw go out new as a new episode. So, but I just love Tom in that costume, that long burgundy coat, and that June Hudson costume. Sorry, the sun's breaking through the window there, and it's affecting my camera. So yeah, it's I do have a soft spot for it, but it's kind of out in its own. Season 18, it's a unique one.
It is really, isn't it? And coming back to what you're saying there, guys, it's going to be interesting to see if the season box set is going to make a difference to those charts now, because it suggests to me that because where that one is, people may not have seen it as much, and now they're available on the iPlayer, and we've also got the fact that the box sets are coming out, and the box sets have been huge sellers. Maybe that will go up again. So at some point in the future, we may have to ask that one again. What your favorite? Michael, you're mentioning season 18. I just want to mention that, of course, because you are a big fan of this, and Bedouin is wearing that particular outfit. Again, this was a real change for Tom, because you mentioned the costume and the look of this, but it still retains its magic, doesn't it? And Tom here, it's another stellar performance from Tom, though, in this new particular different look. He sort of strides above the change in the outfit. And I'm glad you mentioned it here. We've got this lovely picture here, of course, that's available with the outfit and June and Tom. And it's just gorgeous, isn't it, here?
It is.
There's something special about it. And there is a certain look to it.
Yeah. It's just, and the promotion photos that were used on the single of the theme tune and all that sort of stuff. There, just a beautiful costume. I can remember watching Meglos when I was younger, just trying to because you got to see more of the costume, because he'd be taking the coats off more often. And you thought,
I love the waistcoat.
Nice green
as well.
lining.
The waistcoat's fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
In fact, big shout out to Stephen Ricks, who does those beautiful replicas. He does an astonishing job, because that costume, June Hudson just did a great job designing that costume, and it's a shame we didn't see more of it. But there she is. Look at her. Yeah, and the scarf, so different to the previous scarves. I love it.
I'm a big fan of season 18 as well. I really like it. I think it's a great series. Yeah. I'm glad he got the boots rather than the socks and the shoes, though.
Yes, and that was his decision.
Looks so much better with it. Yeah.
That was
some of us were lucky enough to actually touch the real thing, because, of course, Tom at one point was the only person in Britain at that particular point to have 2 waxworks in Madame Tussauds. Not only did he have the Fourth Doctor, but he had the Meglos, and both of them wore that outfit. And that's when it brought home to me just how many outfits they may have had for Tom had to be constructed and made and hanging up for him. As I said before, it mustn't have been very easy wearing big coats and scarves for 7 years in a very, very bright and hot studio and delivering a performance. But yeah, I was there at this Mountain Tour Two Swords exhibition, and I got to touch the real coat and the real scarf. So Yabu, you lot.
Did you get into trouble?
No, there was a sign that actually said they had a K9 who was tilting his head like that, like in the comic book. They had a K9 at the bottom, and it was before you went into this wonderful exhibition where they had a waxwork Lalaward as Romana, they had a Naimon, they had a Suntaran, they had the infamous blue Dalek that was on the back of the Radio Times 20th anniversary special. They had Meglos in there, and they had a Fomacy from the Leisure Hive. Sound effects in there, I seem to recall, and it was brilliant. It was wonderful to see all this. And they had a sign next to the Tom Baker waxwork model saying "Do not touch," but nobody was paying any attention, and everybody was touching the scarf. It was like a mecca, you know. Everybody was touching the scarf and paying homage to Tom, as it were. And it was just, you had to queue for ages because every single one had to stop and get your picture taken with Tom, and we're all.
Because that would have been. It's heartbreaking in Castrovalva when Peter Davison unravels it. That's just, what are you doing? Don't do that.
Unraveled one of them.
Well,
yeah.
I can tell you,
it was, though, wasn't it?
I can share a funny story. So when I started working at the Doctor Who Experience in 2012, we had we were having all our introductory sort of lectures, for want of a better word, teaching us what we were going to do and all that sort of stuff. And we had this weird manual handling session.
I beg your pardon.
You have to learn how to pick up a box correctly and not injure your back.
Oh, thank goodness. Stony ground there.
That's problematic for a minute there. Yeah.
I brought it back. But one of the items that we had was the hat stand that was going to go on the 80s TARDIS set, and the scarf, the original scarf worn by Tom. So there was all of us practicing how to lift properly this awkwardly shaped item, which was the original scarf and the hat stand.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was the one that complained, actually, Bedweer, when I was there, because the scarf you're wearing, that colour scarf, the season 18 scarf, was at one point put in the wrong console room.
Oh.
And I've got the photograph to prove it.
Yeah.
So I think it was the Five Doctors one.
Doctors. Yeah.
And I'm the one that complained.
Well,
That's not right.
Funny you should say that, JT. I've just shared with you a video of that very set. It's my video, so you can play it. I filmed it, so it's no copyright. Yeah, if you look down in the, I don't know.
Yeah, hold on. I'll see if I can find it. I've got. Oh yes, no, we've used this one before. I love this one. Look at this. Now look. There's the scarf there on the wrong set. Now I complained, and I'm sure it was Bedweer that moved it.
To be fair,
how did you let that slip by? How did that happen?
Because it was the original, and I wanted people to see it. I mean, yeah, it's. You mentioned Castrovalva, so it is part of the sort of Fifth Doctor area, but that console is not part.
But to be fair, when that was shot, that was the London, that was the first one. So I don't think that was the only classic console they had at that point. So that's to be fair.
No, I'm not having that.
Eventually, they did have the previous era console, and that's obviously what Tom acted alongside for Sharda, which we'll probably talk about tomorrow. But
yes, we're going to be talking about that. Yeah, come back tomorrow, because again, as part of Tom Baker's season here on Who's Views, tomorrow we're going to be looking at the unfinished Sharda, which has been finished more times than any other Doctor Who in history. Yes, so myself and the Whotastic panel will be here looking at that as part of our Tom at 90 season. I just want to say a huge thank you and hello to Daryl Joyce as well, who's been joining us recently on Whose Views, and who very kindly sent me some of his artwork to share on this very special show for Tom today. Now, you'll know Daryl. You'll certainly, if you don't know the name, you'll certainly recognize the art. I mean, Daryl's art is beautiful. And he's recently had a best-selling book from Telos Publications, An Illustrated Journey. Daryl, thank you so much for sharing these exquisite pieces. You are a star. This, of course, is Revenge of the Cybermen. And look how the Cybermen gleam. Aren't they gorgeous? And...
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's
the Deadly Assassin. Look at that clown, everyone. That gives me the heebie-jeebies, as well as the Master. Tom's Master, that one there, in both Deadly Assassin, Kirsty, and in Keeper of Traken, scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It really did. We've got this one from Daryl as well.
Oh, lovely.
That's amazing.
Robots of Death. Isn't it gorgeous? Look at those eyes on the Aviva Hive.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm getting chills here. These are just gorgeous. And then he's also sent this from the classic, another classic.
Oh, look.
Oh, wow.
Lovely.
Now, why Daryl was never, ever contracted to do the covers for the bloody DVDs? You know, those DVD covers we got. I'll shut up, Justin. But thank you for this. Thank you for these, Daryl. They are absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for allowing us to share these on this very special show. Aren't they gorgeous, everyone?
The Robots of Death one.
Stunning. Beautiful.
Daryl's work is another level.
Yeah.
He's in the chat right now saying thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, nice
no,
work,
thank
Daryl.
you.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you, Daryl. They're just, let's have, come on, let's treat ourselves. Let's look at them again. I mean,
Look at
the
that.
tones, the textures, the thought, the layout, the composition. Oh, I mean, I wish I had your talent, mate. I mean, they're just beautiful.
The likenesses are amazing. It's like a photograph. It's amazing.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daryl, that's amazing. That's
There's
truly
David
something.
Collins in that one as well. Can you see him just there at the end?
Yeah, look at him.
Yeah.
But just they somehow Michael capture the story, don't they? They really do. They capture the story. I mean, look at this one here.
No, they do capture the story. As I said, when I saw the Robots of Death one, I immediately thought of that great line where he says, "Oh, so I suppose it's just a coincidence that you just wandered aboard." And he's quiet. Well, I thought it was a rhetorical question. Yes, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah. Thank you for all your comments on Daryl's artwork there. Absolutely stunning stuff. And congratulations, mate, on the book. Congratulations on the best-selling book. And can you speak to David and say get a reprint done? Because I know some people that didn't get it. Here he is saying no. Thanks, Kirsty. You're welcome, guys. Enjoying all the reminiscences. I can't say that. I've had a drink. Pete's saying nice one, Daryl. And the Doc MD74. Nice to see you as well. Thanks for joining us. That artwork is phenomenal. Simon is saying top notch. Kirsty's speaking for all of us here as well. Thank you, Daryl. Troy, fabulous. JP Fawn is saying amazing artwork. Oh, look at all these lovely compliments you get. It's brilliant. I'm so chuffed, David Dredd. Blue Captain Jack, they're brilliant. Daryl, thanks for sharing. Yes. George is saying the evoker is beautiful.
Yeah, they really capture the spookiness of that era, which is a word that I often apply to what I love about Doctor Who, the spookiness.
Yeah.
A little spookiness for you, Michael. Really. Atmosphere and feel for the story, says Pete. And Garbage is saying he thinks Deadly Assassin is his favorite, but horror is a very close second. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man, so we've got all that. Timescales is telling us this is the fun show. Tom Baker is the Doctor. Thank you. Thank you. But you know what? Even at this particular point, everybody, I can hear everybody, and thank you for watching us, and thank you for subscribing and liking. But I can hear you all saying, what is coming up on Whose Views in February?
What's coming up on Whose Views? What's coming up on Whose Views in February?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me. February, of course, is Valentine's. But who is going to be getting our Valentine's card here on Whose Views?
the hell was that?
That's right. Coming up for Valentine's in February, Whose Views is not sending any message at all to any particular production people at all, because we love Davros. Join us for our We Love Davros season coming up in February. Like and subscribe.
Sorry, JT. I was going to say Freema Adjuman's getting a card from me.
Well, we're going to be celebrating Davros, one of the best science fiction creations, which of course started in Tom's time. So there is a tenuous link there. Talking of tenuous links, who fancies a Merchandise Paradise Tom Baker flavored special?
Why not?
Yes.
Roll tape.
Why not? Okay, then let's do it.
Put away your vintage TARDIS tuner and join JT and the Whotastic panel on Whose Views, my absolute favorite channel. Hold on to that TARDIS tuner, though. It will be worth a fair bit nowadays. More than the Doctor Who, Fourth Doctor Underpants, and less prone to unfortunate marks. Like the video and make this old doctor happy by subscribing to the channel. It really is my favorite, you know.
So we're post watershed then, clearly. His tone has just gone right down.
It's all time. It's all time. Thank you to the Fourth Doctor for introducing Merchandise Paradise there. Yes, this is Merchandise Paradise, where usually on the channel, if you look at the Merchandise Paradise playlist, if you're new to us, I would go through some of the stuff that's coming up for you to pre-order, or that's about to arrive, or gossip, or that sort of stuff. But for this one, of course, I thought it'd be fun to look at some of the merchandise that has been around for the Fourth Doctor and presented the Fourth Doctor. So it could be a little bit of a trip down memory lane for all of us. But first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Pete for sharing some of his Fourth Doctor memorabilia. He sent us this picture. Now, this is a picture of the famous Dennis Fisher police box TARDIS, along with just to the left-hand side there, the also and equally famous Dennis Fisher Doctor, Fourth Doctor. Yes, they were the must-haves for an entire generation around about 77 and 78. And then he's also sent this. Thank you for this, Pete, as well. These are some of his Tom Baker memorabilia. You can see some of the Target books, which was so important to an entire generation, because we didn't have kids. We didn't have playback and download, and we didn't even have video at that particular point. It was all about books. And that's why we can read. So thank you for sharing those with us, Pete. Really appreciate that. Nice of you to do that for us. Yeah, so the 1970s, everybody, was a massive time for Doctor Who, as we've been saying. And Tom, God love him, was everywhere. That's what it seemed like from a fan. And from my personal point of view, this is when I became a proper Doctor Who collector. If it was out there, I had to have it. The Target books and the Letraset set. Now, these were huge at the time. Oh, listen to some of them going, oh, hello. These were huge. The Letraset action range. Now, these were super action heroes. You could get every action hero that was around. From all the usual, Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wonder Woman. You got Starsky and Hutch. You got the big TV shows of the day. So imagine my delight on holiday in the Isle of Man when I found this. Dalek Invasion of the Earth with actual rub-down transfers. Woo! It made my summer. The hack of this is that there, you opened out into this.
Wow.
And they were like film Daleks, weren't they, as well?
Yes, they were the Peter Cushing film. You can just see one on the left there. Now, this was the diorama they gave you, and this was the Dalek Invasion of Earth. This was the only Doctor Who one they ever did. And isn't that beautiful artwork, everybody?
That's wicked.
Isn't it? Wow.
Yeah. And what you did, of course, is you took your transfers, kids. You might have to Google what a transfer is. But you took, and then
it's like a tattoo, isn't it?
Yeah, you would rub over the top of it. Do you remember? And you would have to place the characters. You got the Doctor, you got Sarah, you got Daleks, you got some of the soldiers from UNIT, and you had to put them where you thought best on this scene here, this piece of artwork. And it's so simple. It feels so simple, but my God, I had loads.
I had one of these. I remember putting the Daleks on top of Buckingham Palace at one point. That was pretty good.
Garbage. What the lecturer said, what are you, cheeky monkey? Uncle Remus kits and the transfers. Yes, it all came out. The Uncle Remus was the plasticine sets as well, which is over there in a glass case. So I didn't get it out for you. George is saying that his loft is a 1970s Doctor Who merchandise time capsule. Hello. Talking to the right person here. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got my edition of that anymore. Thanks, Mum. But anyway, now, when I say that Doctor Who was everywhere in the 1970s, it was. And you may not actually believe that Tom Baker's face did adorn some food products. And one that you might not know about was the huge marketing campaign for Cross and Blackwell baked beans.
Oh.
Now there is the adverts that was in many children's magazines, or things like TV Comic and Look In would carry these sort of things here. Cross and Blackwell, maker of baked beans, there in tomato sauce, presented 3 fantastic offers, and as you can see there, you can get the various things. You had to save up all these sort of tokens. So if you wanted the Thomas Salter chemistry set, you had to save up the token, and then you had to send only £5.49, yes, only £5.49, to the address on the back of the label. I always wanted the cutout model of the famous TARDIS for 95p. That was it. That's all I wanted. Just the cutout TARDIS. That's it. So you collected the little tokens and you sent it away to Cross and Blackwell. I wonder how many of you remember that.
That's a new one to me, but isn't 1345 a fortune in 1975?
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, 1345 for the second offer there, which was it was a radio and electronic kit, which I didn't want that. I wanted the paper cutout TARDIS. But 1345 was a lot then in those days, only 1345. So you had various kids all around the United Kingdom just eating beans every night for tea. And that's probably why we've got an ozone problem.
That explains
that
a lot.
The Weetabix, obviously, yes.
Well,
yes,
mention Weetabix.
Nice.
It's because of the 1970s Doctor Who Weetabix promotions that I still eat Weetabix to this very day. Because yes, Weetabix was a huge supporter of Doctor Who in both 1975, where we got Doctor Who and His Enemies, and 1977, where we got the secret messages of the Time Lords. Now, these drove parents mad, because in those days, I don't know if they still do it, but you had little boxes of Weetabix, you had the slightly bigger box of Weetabix, and then you had the even bigger, and you got more cards inside them and more information inside than the bigger box you went. The only problem with getting the bigger box is that the Weetabix would last forever. It seemed to take months. So, okay, you had more freebies inside them, but you would always go, no, we don't need that. Put it back. No, we don't need that yet. Anyway, that's just me. Sorry, it's therapy. But look at the artwork that accompanied the Weetabix. This artwork is now famous, of course, Paul.
It is. That's the second set, though, isn't it? There's an earlier set too, isn't there?
There's loads, and there's no particular order for me here. I'm just throwing it into all of it. But look at these cards.
Oh, so those ones on the right have fantastic old monsters like a Quark and a white robot and a Yeti. Isn't that amazing?
And an Ogron and different coloured Daleks.
Yeah,
that was the first set, wasn't it? The individual ones.
Yeah.
Love
the
those.
ones on the right are the first set, and the ones on the left are the secret message from the Time Lord ones, which was the stand-uppy things. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Those images were used as stickers at the Australian Doctor Who Club in the 80s, and I had them stuck all over my bookshelf.
No, were they?
They were just they were just photocopy stickers. Like, they weren't commercial, but I love them.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think you can get Doctor Who mugs, can't you, with some of these images?
You can. You can. Yeah, you can now, because the actual artwork for them has become iconic. Pete's saying here in the chat, windy times. It was. I didn't know any kid at school that wasn't eating the Cross and Blackwell baked beans.
That's it. People in the UK blame the weather.
Yeah. So Blue Captain Jack there. The Doctor Who and His Enemies from Weetabix was 1975, and the secret messages from the Time Lords were 1977. You may have caught the advert from Weetabix from the second set on the Tube of Who. You can go and find it. It's absolutely brilliant, with the little boy getting terrorized by a Dalek. Tony is saying, oops, pardon me. Yes, well, that's fine. 95p for a cut-out TARDIS. It shows you, oh, goodness me, it really does. George is saying to us, he was such a devotee. I kept and still have some can labels and the pop-up TARDIS book. My pop-up TARDIS book, gone the way of all mystery things, but I do have a can. I do have the can there, and it's rusted to hell. It's terrible. Yes, so that's it. I want to go with the Weetabix as well. Now, these, look at the artworks on these. These were the games on the back of some of the Weetabix. Now, what you did with the figures is you traveled around. You had dice, and you would travel around and play the games. You've got Race Through Space, Discover the Lost Planet, Travel Through Time, Escape from the Underworld. Look at the gorgeous Silurian on that as well. Isn't it beautiful? Now, these were the days, kids. Proper art. Proper art. Now, these, they also had this series as well. Look. Now, these I've shown before somewhere else. You got the console then, you got various alien planets, and these were for your theatre spaces. So these were the ones with the bigger figures you propped up in front of them. You know, so you'd have the Daleks gliding around the cities or something like that. I mean, as kids, we were so entertained by all this. It's hard to imagine, though, isn't it, really?
Well, it's mainly just paper and cardboard, isn't it?
Yeah, but we were entertained for hours, weren't we, Ian?
I can imagine those nowadays done by Daryl.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah.
Daryl.
Yeah.
It's a contract, son.
Yeah.
But this artwork, beautiful.
We never got those in Australia. I would have loved this.
Do you know what else you would have loved as part of Weetabix? The cut out and attached and put together TARDIS.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, and that was what you used, Kirsty, to place in front of the dioramas there, and then you would use the characters to come out of the TARDIS. It was like a little theatre set. And as I discovered, you could actually use them in your Blue Peter theatre if you made the Blue Peter theatre as the backdrop. Genius! Oh, we were poor, but we were entertained.
We had our imaginations, didn't we?
That's exactly it, isn't it, Michael? Imagination.
Yeah.
I used to draw the TARDIS and cut it out myself. I'd trace it from the technical manual, and I'd cut it out of a Wheat Bix box. But we never got it. We never got that stuff over here. But it's just using our imagination.
Yeah. Well, this was, as I say, the golden age for Doctor Who, because it's never come close to this. And we're going to now look at the infamous Typhoo tea. Now, this is something else that I would drive the adults around. Everybody for months had to drink nothing but Typhoo tea. Just simply, Typhoo tea is still around, yeah. And every time I see them now, I do cry. I go, oh, please, don't do something with Doctor Who. But it's just not that sort of thing. But yeah, my family had to drink Typhoo tea for years and years and years so I could get these. We're going to be looking at.
If you smell the cards, they probably still smell of tea, don't they?
They do. Even though I've encased them in this plastic thing all those years ago. Look at these. These are gorgeous. So there's the Dalek.
Yeah.
Look how big they are as well, with my very manly hands.
Some great pictures, aren't they?
They're just stunning. So yes, these took, I cannot tell you how long these took to collect. I cannot tell you how my family must have hated me, because there were more of them. There were absolutely loads. And eventually I got them all. But that's only because the family were forced to buy these tea bags for all that time. And I remember getting messages from the old telephonic device saying, we've got another card. But obviously, it was like the entire family. But again, look at the artwork here. You've got two space age cards, as you can see there, in the 72 box, where you got 72 tea bags. Now, again, as a kid, these things seem to last forever. And I was always saying, would you like a cup of tea as soon as somebody came in, whether it be family or neighbors or whomever, we like a cup of tea. So I learned to make a cracking cup of tea, because sometimes they would get 2 bags in the 1 cup.
Yeah, just get through it.
Or 4 tea bags.
We're out of tea. We're out of tea again.
Plus, you're forcing your mum to eat Weetabix as well.
I'll tell you what. Pop down the shop, grab some tea, and while you're there, grab some Weet Bix as well.
It's exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing about this is that this was a massive promotion, and I don't think there was anybody that didn't know about this, because Tom Baker's face, as you can see there, along with Elizabeth Sladen, was glaring out of view. The artwork, again, was superb. This was the back of the Typhoo boxes. So this is the underneath of the box. Isn't that lovely? It's just so 70s. And what happens, of course, is you had to collect again, and it must have worked for Typhoo because they're still around today.
That's what saved them.
You should have shares.
You had to. I wish I did. You had to collect the tokens. Now, if you collected the tokens, there were several things you could get, but of course, the two big ones that we all know about, of course, was the Doctor Who, The Amazing World of Doctor Who book, which was actually a compilation of the Doctor Who annuals from Word Distributors. So, of course, had an annual every year that Tom was the Doctor. And once you collected your cards that I've just shown you, you were supposed to stick them on that poster, which you also had to send off for. Now, my poster is well and truly disappeared as well. I still have the annual. And of course, that lovely book, The Amazing World of Doctor Who, has had a renaissance in 2023 because you can now get it on CD and vinyl. It's actually behind me. You probably can't see it, but it is behind me there. So it's a whole new generations of discovering that. And it all stems from tea bags, which is just brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
I've got a million lines and I can't use any of them.
Do any of you guys remember that?
Oh, definitely. I used to have the book and collected the cards, but never got the poster, strangely, though.
Yeah, I think you had to. I think it was a couple of quid as well that you had to send for.
That'll
on that
be
one,
why
if you
I'm
remember
Scottish.
correctly.
That's
Yeah.
why. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't be racist, Paul. Don't be racist.
I'm Scottish. It's fine.
Well, it's in the blood. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But there was
Scottish
some.
racist, I mean, sorry, yeah. So.
They were the two major ones that I certainly remember from foodstuffs from the 1970s. Just to go back to who was it that was mentioning the plasticine? I've actually got it for you now. That was it here. This was the Remus Doctor Who 3D clay picture. Now, mine has never been opened, but inside this is still a plastic cover that you squeeze the plasticine that is also in here into to give you a lovely picture, as you can see there. Now, that's all still in there. 3D. The contents, it says Doctor Who background scene, 3D clear plastic molding, 4 strips of coloured clay, and a modelling knife, which was very little. You used to get them at school. Remember those plastic things? But that's it there for whoever was mentioned it before. There it is.
More of a safety knife, though, wasn't it? To be fair.
Yes, that we had at school. Yeah, we had all those there. So that was that one for you. I mean, this was big. I mean, again, hours of entertainment if you wanted to open that and use that, which I never did. I don't think they'd do that today, would they?
No. Too old school for today.
Yeah. Too old
has to be all electronic and
too
online.
Cringe.
Yeah.
It's true. You are watching Who's Views. We are celebrating Tom's 90th birthday, which is today. Thank you for watching us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You're very welcome. Lovely to see you. And happy birthday to Tom. This is the Merchandise Paradise bit where we're going through some of the merchandise that was around when Tom was around. And the Holy Grail now for Doctor Who fans, because Dennis Fisher released the infamous Doctor Who action figures. Now, this was what every Doctor Who fan had to have. There were several in the range over a couple of years. The TARDIS, and we showed a pizza photograph of these before. Tom Baker himself, the 4th Doctor. Leela, Cyberman, a Dalek, the giant robot. And then the year after, in 1978, K9 joined them as well. These were big toys, and they ranged in price from $2.99 upwards. So at the time, they're actually quite costly as well. But today, the value for these things has rocketed. If you want the Dennis Fisher Dalek, for example, you'll pay anywhere from £220 upwards without a box. Because what happened in the 1970s is boxes were paper, and paper got thrown out. So I count my blessings that I've still got my TARDIS in its box, my Dennis Fisher Doctor in his box, and K9 in his box, because all the rest are long gone. But they were the Holy Grail. Who else had one of these on the panel?
Well, I had the TARDIS, Tom, Cyberman, Dalek, and Robot, but never Leela, and I had K9. Has anyone noticed that Tom Baker looks a bit like Gambit from the New Avengers.
You know the story for that, don't you?
Yes. I do. I've heard it. Yeah, you tell it.
Go on then, tell us.
Well, apparently there was a mistake at the factory, and I think the Tom head got damaged, and they had a Gareth Hunt head that was similar, looked very similar, so they put his head on Tom's body. I believe that's how it worked.
Wasn't that disproven? I don't know whether that was. I think that was a bit of a myth, wasn't it?
It could be a myth, but it's a great story nonetheless.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
This is my opportunity to finally be able to say I was a bit too young for the Dennis Fisher stuff, but I managed to get one when I was about 17 in Brisbane in a collector shop. Fan Attic. Hello, Blake, if you're watching. And managed to find one, so I grabbed it, and $50 it was.
Anybody that's looking, if you do manage to find a Dennis Fisher toy anywhere, you must grab it. You have to grab it. And if anybody's watching that knows the whereabouts of the Dennis Fisher Cyberman or Dalek, please get in touch with me at whosviews1@gmail.com, because my Cyberman fell to bits years ago and I never managed to get the Dalek when I was a little boy.
I'm going to go get my phone, JT, because I think I saw one on eBay, so I'll be back in a sec.
Oh, what?
I'll send you a link in the private chat.
Yes, okay. We'll do that later. Doug's saying here, with all the 1970s advertising and merchandising, would it have been the BBC or Tom that benefited from using his likeness?
The BBC, probably, yeah.
I would have thought so. I would have thought so. Absolutely. But it's nice to see you, Doug. How are you? Thanks for joining us for this very special. Oh, JP Forney said, I would play for these today. You wouldn't, because don't play with them. If you find them, they are worth a fortune because they are the Holy Grail. George is saying to us, look at the detail on those Weetabix games. They are surprisingly screen accurate. They absolutely are. They are beautiful, aren't they? Peter's saying, imagination with simplicity. That's all we had, though, as well, didn't we? Because that's how we grew up.
I'm sure we all noticed that the Cyberman had a nose as well. Did you notice that?
I did. The Cyberman had a nose, which is part of the charm, really.
Yeah. It's a throwback to the 10th planet, obviously. That's what it is.
Yes, it is. Stephen Griffiths, amazing artwork. Stephen, nice to see you. Thank you. And George is also saying, apparently they were the most successful Weetabix promotions ever. I've heard that before, and I totally would say that they were, because there wasn't a kid alive that wasn't eating Weetabix or drinking Thai food tea. These things were, or eating Cross and Blackwell beans. Everybody I knew was on those things. Absolutely. It shows you the power of Tom's Doctor, though, at the time, and how big Doctor Who was, because in modern times, we've only had, again, sort of past the shapes from Tennant's time, and some chocolates and some yogurt back when the show was sort of big here in that time. JP Fawn is agreeing with the Blue Peter Theatre. Yes, we talked more about that on our Blue Peter show that we did, which is on our specials channel. Look, and what's this? The Amazing World of Doctor Who annual type book and poster that went with the Thai food cards are wonderful. They are. Yeah. And we were all so excited when that was actually, when you saw these, because you never really got to see them or announced. Like today, you would be aware now. But in those days, you saw it in the shop and your heart just went, you just, oh my God, what's this? What's this? It's got the Doctor Who logo. It's got Tom Baker on, and you had to have it. And gosh, I suppose my whole family, they were tea drinkers anyway, but it's just as well. This as well. Oh, I've already got that one. Shut up and drink your tea. Oh, do you know? If ever there was a card that I had, I'd be so grumpy. I've got that one, and you'd have to go to school and swap it. You would. You'd have to go to school and swap it. So a couple of those in there that I've got are swaps. Garbage is saying, I remember collecting the PG Tips cards. It started with the UFO mysteries like Not Less Monster, and then it was the PG Chimps, which was born a few years earlier to get the Weetabix ones. Yeah.
I just sent you a link, JT, you might find interesting. You can look
at it later. No, I'm now going to be ready. This is this is very difficult. Yes. So where were we up to? Yes. So that was that particular one, the Dennis Fisher, the Holy Grail for a whole generation of toys. The first ever action figure toys for Doctor Who as well. They were quite large. They were around about 9 inches. And as you can see, though, the TARDIS was a little bit bigger. They were gorgeous. Something else that was around at the time is the infamous TARDIS tuner. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted one of these. From Shortman Trading. This was out in the 70s as well. This is just actually a glorified radio. And to be quite honest, you probably wouldn't be able to get any frequency on it today.
Does it
No.
really say Doctor Who in the Turgets? Does it?
Yes, that was the advert. Stop laughing, you lot. This is serious stuff. Doctor Who and the Turgids.
Turgids, not Turgids. Yeah, give it.
I'm laughing because when I heard AI Tom Baker earlier, I thought he said TARDIS tuna, as in the fish. I'm thinking that was interesting.
No. This is what he was talking about. This is the famous TARDIS tuner, which is a radio. Now, this was actually around, believe it or not, into the 90s. Because I was still seeing it as some collector's comic card. At the time when it came out, it was £19.95, which a lot of parents would have turned around and said, no, that's too much money for what is basically a glorified radio. It's now worth anything from £180 upwards. It's more if you find that beautiful box, which is what they absolutely pushed it on, because the box was so exciting for young people. Look at it, it's gorgeous. And that advert appeared in various magazines all around the UK. You could get it in the Blackpool exhibition, I think, until it closed in 1985. I remember seeing it going, oh, I don't know, should I get another one? Should I get another one? Top Trumps were around in the 70s, and yes, there it is. Doctor Who was a big one for them as well. Played exactly the same way as it is today. Today it's become a multi-million-dollar industry, the Top Trump business, but back then it was just this little thing. And Doctor Who was a welcome addition to the range because you used to get historical figures and royalty and all that sort of stuff, you know, writers and all that boring stuff. And then this one came along, and again, look, it's Tom's face there. And you got, do you know what makes me laugh? Did any of you lot have this?
Yeah.
Have you still got it?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Look how small they are now. In a very it's a beaten up cardboard box, but look at that. It's stuck together with sticky tape because it was played at school. We played Top Trumps at school. And what makes me laugh about this is there are a hell of a lot of Doctor Who characters in there, isn't there, Ian? But they've also stuck some of their other characters from their other ranges in, like Sherlock Holmes.
Annie Oakley.
It's just, you're just going through all this going, who?
What got me, and being a Doctor Who fan, we're very want the detail to be right. It used to drive me crazy that an ogre and a sea devil were mixed up. Remember that?
It did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of mistake Chibnall would make.
Yeah,
probably. So that was the Jota Star Top Trumps there. Oh, goodness me. Memories. Who remembers this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, these were the infamous Avon tins. They were money boxes, believe it or not, but inside were toffees. It is a tin. Yeah, there were toffees inside. You would take the lid off, and there were toffees in it. There were sweeties in it. And this, again, was a treasure, but these were all over the place right up until the 90s. You could find these things. At the time, they were fairly cheap, but now they're not so cheap, and you can get one now from anywhere of about £25 upwards.
They did a Peter Davison one as well, didn't they?
They did, yes, they did. So there were two at the time, but that's obviously the Tom one there, and the Peter Davison one came along obviously when he arrived. So it was nice to see them, and if you've got both of them there, you've got a little bit of a collector's item there. They're nice to have, and if you're saving money in them, well done, because you need to these days. I'll tell you what that was all. Tom Baker's time, of course, something important happened, and it's still around to this very day. Tom helped to launch Doctor Who Weekly in October 1979, and by God, he was good, because he traveled around the country pushing this brand new comic that we all wanted, and we didn't really realize that we wanted at the time, but we wanted it, and when it arrived, it was a huge seller, to the point where, of course, it's still around today in its new form as Doctor Who magazine. But look, guys, who remembers the transfers from the first few editions?
Yeah. More transfers, kids.
They won't know what transfers are, but we were all hooked on them. I remember when the Star Wars ones came out, they were all over my wardrobe, and when my mother found out, she hit the roof. It was... But yeah, Doctor Who magazine started in 1979 with Tom, and there he is there on his promotional tour to publicize it with this famous picture. They're absolutely stunning. Staying with books very quickly. Now, as I mentioned, the Doctor Who annuals from World Distributors were religious there. Yeah, they were there every year throughout Tom's reign, and they were fun and they were gorgeous. But they also did these. On the left here, we've got the Doctor Who colouring book, and on the right, we've got the Doctor Who press out book. Yes, different days, different times, but again, we loved all this. Now, colouring books, of course, have come back in vogue. I haven't seen any British Doctor Who ones now, so these again were very special, and they were easy to give people who, kids that you knew were Doctor Who fans, because they were also relatively cheap, 25p each.
Wow.
Not that anymore. For the colouring book on the left-hand side, you'll be lucky to find it for any less than £15. And the pressed-out book, which was also apparently on a different print run, you can get for around about £20 to £25 if you find it now.
Wow.
That's the modern one.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Get rid of it. So also, I just want to, at this point as well, just mention as well that, of course, Tom's autobiography should be fitting in here. From HarperCollins, Who on Earth is Tom Baker? We've referred to it on our last Tom Baker show. Of course, there's a picture of him on the tour. He went on a huge tour back in 1997 to promote his autobiography. It's a great read. It's something that we recommend on this channel as well. If you can find it, then get it. It's also available, as Paul was saying on the last show, as CD, if you can still find that. And yeah, it might be available on some download services these days as well. So if it is, do have a read of Tom reading his autobiography, because it's hilarious.
I was delighted.
Hilarious.
I was delighted when I picked mine up back in '97. There was a little card with his signature on it. So obviously it was one of them that had come through, slipped into the country. Yeah, so it was exciting.
Tom's scarf had an impression all over the United Kingdom. As we mentioned at the top of the show, everybody seemed to have a Doctor Who scarf at one point. Nothing really changes, because they're still around today. You can see them all over the place today in their homage to the mighty Tom. But there was even a knitting pattern, and here is his. This is the knitting pattern from that particular point. And yes, these are the colours. Now, I can't read this because I don't understand this knitting pattern, but there it is. And look at that. It was 5p, Who viewers. 5p for a knitting pattern. Now, this was appropriated from my mother's collection, and it's now in mine. So I hope she's not watching, because she will demand it back. You're not getting it. There it is there. And, of course, what followed the knitting pattern was...
Oh, look.
The scarf.
Still going.
Oh, brilliant.
Fantastic.
There we go.
Who made that for you?
My mum.
That's great.
I might wear that for Sharda tomorrow, but that came from that. That was another piece of
How about a big shout out to the mums and aunties who knitted us scarves? My auntie spent months knitting me a scarf that was in that photo that I was at the 40th anniversary wearing. That she knitted that to me, and it came in the mail, and I was so excited to see it. I was 21 at the time. Pathetic.
Oh, bless. I actually forgot to say that Letraset set that I showed you earlier on, it was originally 55p. If you find it today in a good state, you'll pay anywhere between £25 and £30 for it.
Wow.
Ugh. There was another piece of item that most of us seem to have, and it came out from 1975. And again, this was around up until the 90s. In some collectors' fairs, you can actually still get it today. And this, of course, is the infamous Palitoy Talking Dalek.
Oh, yeah.
Launched when Tom was the Doctor, as I say, in 1975. And the original retail price for this was £3.75. Now, if you haven't seen these, that button on top of the Dalek's head, you would push, and it would come up with various Dalek phrases: exterminate, you will obey, all that sort of stuff. There were 3 variants, believe it or not. There was the silver and blue one you see there. There was the red one, which had the black black sensor globes on it. And then, yes. And then there was the actual very rare one, which was a different color of that. It was actually sort of it had the black. It was silver with the black sensor globes on it, and that apparently is very rare. And I've never seen that. But these were, well, we all had, well, lots of us had these. As I say, they were just brilliant to play with as well. Not actually in scale with the Dennis Fisher toys, but who cared?
What's worth more, that one or the Dennis Fisher one?
Well, as I say, these were originally £3.75 when they came out. If you find one now, £3.75. Yes, 375. If you find one today in good working order, you're going to be paying around about £220. If the record isn't working inside it, you might be looking to get it for £150 to £180. Isn't that amazing? The things we had. But there it is there. Happy days indeed. The Palatoy talking Daleks. Before we finish this edition of the Tom Baker version of Merchandise Paradise, there's one more item I have to mention. It's famous, not just in Britain,
infamous,
but across the universe. Across the universe. For some bizarre reason.
We all know
in
where
the
this is going.
70s, in the 1970s, the British Home Stores, God bless the British Home Stores, thought that 85 pence was the ideal price for the Doctor Who underpants, everybody. Yay! And yes, who didn't want Tom Baker emblazoned across their underpants back in the 1970s?
Look where they've got their plungers.
It's a
Mark
very
in a
odd,
meeting sits and thinks about this, and let's go with this. There must be a gap in the market for underpants, surely. Who thought of
gap
this?
somewhere. A T-shirt, yes, I'd love it, but yeah,
well, we may scoff, but they sold over 46,000 of them. The British Home Stores at 85 pence. I could see various lads getting these for Christmas.
Easy, how many pairs have you got?
Actually, I don't have that.
I'm wearing mine now.
Strangely enough, this whole thing of Doctor Who underwear was repeated in 2006 and 2007, but that's another show. But they were the they were the first from the British Home Stores. God bless the British Home Stores. They are now long gone and much missed on our high streets. But they were 85 pence. 46.
Are they?
Sorry?
The Daleks aren't that bad on those underpants. They're pretty all right, actually, as a drawing.
No, they're all right, actually.
You know, you get some that are like, if you look at the one, say, on the knitting pattern, it was quite just a...
Yes, dodgy.
Yeah, whereas...
Yeah. And obviously no issues there with copyright or anything like that. Thank you for all your chats, by the way. Keep them coming. I'll get to them as soon as I can.
I'm just laughing at Peter Harrington. Tricky time at hospital if you get run over.
They change colour anyway, wouldn't they? I mean,
oh dear, yeah. But these are, of course, now legendary for a certain age group, our age group in there. You know, because and a lot of collectors are still looking for these. Believe it or not. Now that artwork that Ian quite likes, Phil mentions in this little clip that because Phil wanted to tell us a little bit about merchandise as well. Have a look at this.
So, these are the predictions I'm going to make.
Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
He's still stuck in that infernal time, Eddie.
Here it is. Here's the merchandise. Oh, live. We're live, everybody. Here.
So, my favourite piece of Tom Baker / Fourth Doctor merchandise would be the tiles. Now, I don't own the tiles, but I used to work at Galaxy 4, and they did own a set of tiles, and they're almost wonderful, like 70s kind of mad print of the Doctor in the foreground, and there's the TARDIS, if I remember correctly, and I think Daleks coming out of it. And it's just such an odd thing, because I can just picture people like, oh, I don't know what tiles to have in the kitchen. Should we go for the stainless steel mosaic, or maybe the Italian marble? Actually, these ones of Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor, they'll go lovely with the worktop. So yeah, they're a bit random, but in a way they're beautiful. And if I can find a picture and I develop the video editing skills to do it, I'll put a picture of them here at some point. It might already be there. I don't know, but yeah, that's one of my favourite things. And if it was a thing I owned, it would be this. It's looking a bit sad now because he's lost his arm, and it's the little was it Bluebird playset, and it used to have a Fourth Doctor that lived in there, but I let my children play with it and they've lost him. But we've still got the Dalek, so that's good. Yeah, that's it really.
Never ever let children play with the toys you buy for your collection.
Things do get lost, you know.
Why would you even open it, Phil? Why would you even do that unless you've got two, which I know you haven't? But yeah, the tiles that Phil mentioned there were actually by Pick Tiles, and they were produced in 1982. And again, you could get these in various shops, if you like, up until, believe it or not, 1989 and 1990 in certain places. Now, they originally were £18. Today, you get them for anywhere between £100 and £180, depending who you're going to. But the Doctor Who tiles, really, really big stuff. And as for his Bluebird set there, that Bluebird set came out in 1996 when the TV movie arrived. And Bluebird celebrated with that. I've got two, so that's why that one's open. And because Phil couldn't show it you, I'm going to show it you, because the Doctor was a teeny weeny Tom Baker. Can you see that? Isn't that gorgeous? So that's that there. But that was 1996. And which Doctor did they get to represent the series? Fantastic.
Yeah. Go back to the tiles. I think the likenesses on the tiles of the Daleks are quite good, don't you think, Ian?
Yeah, they were. And again, though, it says everything about Tom Baker, doesn't it? Because he'd been out of the show for a year by that point, and they still use Tom Baker and early Tom Baker as well.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that as well, wasn't it? And they weren't worried. People weren't worried about the fact that he, at that point, left the show. There was a lot of merchandise around featuring Tom. And guess what? There still is. Tom's image, Tom's look as the Doctor is still the one that they all go to, first of all, when they're launching a new range. You know, it's amazing to think that, isn't it? Because it's so iconic. But that was a quick roundup, well, a quickish roundup of some of the Tom Baker merchandise from back in the day.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, a shout out, honourable mention to the scarfless Daypole Tom Baker.
My God, they got some ribbing for that, didn't they? They really, really did.
I was genuinely happy to have it at that age.
Yeah, such an attention to detail, didn't they?
Bless them. Blue Captain Jack, I still have my TARDIS money box at the time of Peter Davison, but no Peter Davison on it. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh.
I don't know what that is. George is saying, I had a very soft spot for the wonderfully inaccurate black and yellow Dalek bubble bath. Yes, they were around for quite a while as well. You can still see them in certain collectors' fairs as well. So you've got all that there.
Dennis Allen print posters and the birthday cards. I love those.
Yeah.
Yes, they're fabulous.
Yeah, they were great. Was Tom the first Doctor to have an action figure? Yes, the Dennis Fisher action figure of Tom. Yeah, and it was really, really sad actually, because we had those wonderful action figures, and some of us craved more, and they never arrived. Every time a new cat, I thought, "Oh, we're gonna get a Romana." No. Oh, we're gonna get a Naimon. Nope. Oh, we'll get a Mandrill. Nope. I was waiting for years, years for those sort of things. Thank you very much for everybody for watching. You're really busy in the chat. It's lovely to see you. Oh, the Mr. Brown Alliance is here. So let's say hello to you. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hope you are well. Simon saying, I bet the BBC didn't make much out for this, hence the setting up of BBC Enterprises, which also didn't know the value of its library. Well, true. But BBC Enterprises, of course, was set up because of the Daleks. It goes right back to the very beginning, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, and George is saying the TARDIS tuner was hugely expensive. Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm. Garbage. Yeah, that's what I'm frightened of.
Yeah, that's the one I sent you.
Oh, that's what I'm really scared of. People just don't like opening the wallet at all. The tile, says Just Jordan, would be cool in a kitchen or bathroom. Yes, when you saw them put together as well, like Phil was saying that in Galaxy 4, you could put them together. The artwork was stunning and the colours were so rich, and because it was a tile, the paint they would have to use for the tiles, so vivid. It really came around. They were absolutely gorgeous. Jack wants to know, okay, what's the panel's best pieces of Tom Baker merchandise? It's always merchandise on this show, Jack. Naughty boy. So we'll start with, who wants to start with that one? Go on, Paul, you start.
Well, it goes back to my Pescatons record again, really, because I got it signed by the man himself. But I think growing up, probably along with that, would have been my Tom Baker figure with the leather hat, which was interesting, and the little scarf.
The Dennis Fisher one.
Yeah.
Ian?
Much to my shame, I sold my Dennis Fisher stuff and probably didn't get. I know. You see, we were moving houses relatively frequently for a while, and they were starting to get damaged in transit all the time. And I foresaw a point in time, sound like the Time Lord in Genesis of the Daleks. I saw a point in time where they'd be smashed to buggery and not be worth squat.
Oh, bless you! My heart's aching for you.
Yeah, I had the TARDIS, the Tom Baker, the Dalek, and with boxes, and the K9. And the K9's ears got knocked off. The TARDIS would get, that kind of thing. So
because they were quite the plastic was quite brittle.
Yeah.
Listen, don't get me started about ears on K9. I could do a whole show about every single action figure or model of K9. The ears always fall off. Don't get me started on that one.
And the sonic screwdriver was very
were
fragile.
cardboard as well, weren't they? So,
yeah, they were.
Yes, they were. Beautiful, simple stuff. Michael, what was your favourite bit of Tom Baker merchandise?
As a kid, well, aside from the Dennis Fisher, because obviously that's everyone's favourite, but I don't know. I loved the Doctor Who monster book as a kid. As a kid, because I loved the Chris Akilaos artwork on there and Tom's image on that. As an adult collector, the character options figures, I never thought I'd get a season 18 Tom. So I'm pretty fond of those. That they're good. But yeah, and I do have a soft spot for the Day Bowl Tom Baker, just because I was excited to have a Tom Baker figure, and for me, I didn't get the Dennis Fisher when I was a kid, so that was my first.
It was a lovely exhibition. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Look, it's an interesting curiosity, and I'm glad I've got it. But yeah, look, I think the books, the Target books with his image on them, anything with Chris Akilaos' artwork,
stunning. Yeah. All right then. So we'll go to Kirsty. Have you got any Tom Baker merchandise at all?
A 57-year-old man called John.
That'll do. Oh, John, if you've got any Tom Baker merchandise, you have to let us know. That'd be great. But what about yourself? You got anything?
Oh, plenty of things. I think the thing that stands out for me, though, is getting the VHS copy of the Genesis of the Daleks Sontaran Experiment 2-pack. That was kind of the holy grail for me as a fan who was collecting the videos to try and experience the whole story of Doctor Who, if you will. And I remember borrowing it from a family friend and almost physically needing to have my own copy of it. And it took years to find it, and paying, it must have been something between 50 and 75 quid for VHS seems extraordinary now, but that's what we did, and that was the best way of seeing Genesis as often as I wanted.
Speaking of VHS, how about the Tom Baker years? That was an incredible piece. I mean, I'm so glad it's finally on Blu-ray because it was only on VHS there for a while. I love that, and because that's the first time he engaged with it since he left, and it's quite an interesting emotional journey that he goes on during it, because by the
some of
end
his
of
reactions
it,
are priceless, aren't they? To some of the clips.
JNT was brilliant for putting that together, and you're watching them without any prep. As he says, I'm just to watch it raw. It's quite moving at the end, and the heartbreaking bit when he watches the 5 Doctors, and he's clip, and he says, "I declined the opportunity. Silly, really." And you think, oh, to have had him in the 5 Doctors would have been just fantastic.
Well, it would have been, but it would have meant that the 5 Doctors would have been all about Tom, because that's all we would have loved. That's a completely different story. He would have stolen every aspect of that show.
Very interesting to see him and John Pertwee together. When I read the
fight. Yeah.
when I read that book, the Nth Doctor. When I read the synopsis of the Dark Dimension for the first time, and I read the scene with the 3rd and the 4th Doctor together, I thought, if only we could have seen that. I completely understand why the Doctors were peed off about it, but just to have seen Tom and John together would have been amazing. Don't you agree, Ian?
Totally, 100%. I love a story that Tom gave about Pertwee, where he would Tom would just say something about how much he was getting for a particular job, and just watch to see if he gave Pertwee a heart attack, and saying, "If you eventually die of a heart attack, I hope it wasn't me." Brilliant story. Typically Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Those two were amazing. I see in the chat as well that George and Tony are having a chat. And George has put up here, no 70s Doctor Who fan would have been without the War of the Daleks game. Absolutely true. War of the Daleks down there. You can still see it in some collectors' marts today. You can still see that. And it was a fabulous game. You had these little teeny weeny Daleks that would run around this board with this console type thing in the middle of it, didn't you, George and Tony? And it would play the game there. And the little Daleks are actually quite gorgeous. But that was a big seller, and that was done by the same people that did the action figures. It was Dennis Fisher in their Strawberry Fair range. So that's a lovely bit of collection as well. And Tony's saying here in response to that, that's the one. He had only the magnetic Daleks out of it now. Oh, what a shame. My box is battered and bruised and ripped to hell because it was played so much. And then, of course, it's cheap cardboard. It's very thin cardboard. Otherwise, I'll show you. But every time I move it, I'm frightened it's going to fall and disintegrate because it's that sort of thing.
What about the other board games, JT? What are they worth?
Well, actually, there's, you can't see it. There is one behind me, which comes in two forms. It's this one. If I hold this up.
Don't choke on your scarf.
The Doctor Who game that came with two covers, one with the TARDIS on, and then a later one which Tom Baker was pushed over the top of him, right? And
Did that have a little shaker for the dice? The TARDIS.
That's right.
Yes,
that one. That today is only worth about £15 mint if you find it, that particular one. And you can find them again in collector's marts. I've seen them. So if you find that particular one, £15, don't pay any more than 20. But it is a collector's edition as well. It's a nice bit of Tom there. And then we had this American thing. When the role-playing things came up, can you see that?
Yeah.
In addition to all the jigsaws and stuff, of course, there was a lot. There was a hell of a lot going on. But that role-playing thing was worth. It was $29.99 in Britain on release. It's now worth. It's now worth 40.
Wow.
If you find
How
it.
about, what about the Doctor Who Discovers series?
I don't know those offhand. I don't think they're that much. But we are gonna. We need to do a sequel, don't we? To our Target special that we did, which looks at all the spin-offs.
Yeah, I've got Doctor Who Discovers the Conquerors, which is slightly problematic.
Maybe it is today, but they're good. They were good reads. But that's the other thing about Tom's Doctor. Tom's Doctor was used to sell factual books as well. You know, the dinosaurs, the Conquerors. What else did we have in that? Space travel. What else did we have? Yeah, all that sort of stuff. It was used for that. They were in every school library in the United Kingdom those days.
Yeah, great.
No other kid got to look at them because I had
educational and fun.
Educational and fun. Tom Baker's Doctor Who all the way. George is saying about War of the Daleks. It was a great board game, Tony, and I treasure mine. Yeah. I hope yours is in a better condition than mine. Doug is saying to us it was much more recent, but there was a wonderful talking Tom Baker figure. It was that one.
Oh, yeah, Product Enterprise. Yeah.
The Product Enterprise one, which came with the little K9.
They were a great company.
But the ears fell off the K9. Yeah. The Product Enterprise this went with the Talking Davros and the Talking Daleks that Product Enterprise did, along with the Talking Cybermen and all the other stuff. But that's the Talking Tom Baker. I haven't seen it around for a while.
What things did he say? What did Tom say is this new figure?
I can't remember. I'll have to go and check that for you because I can't remember. It doesn't work. One, I've got two. I've got one in the box and one out of the box. Now the battery's long gone on that. A real scarf though. Look, it's knitted.
Wow.
Was one, do you want a jelly baby? Because he came with a little, doesn't he have a little? Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Oh,
take the batteries out, JT. Otherwise they corrode.
Yeah.
Yes, I must remember to do that because I don't.
I've taken them all out of all my Daleks and TARDISes. They've just removed all the batteries so they don't corrode.
Yeah. What else we got here? Yeah, so that's that one, Doug. It was Product Enterprise, marvelous company, absolutely brilliant, and good stuff there as well. Oh, it's lovely to see you all in the chat. Dino Vesera is saying, I had an audio cassette tape of State of Decay and Full Circle on Viewmaster slides. Yeah, the Viewmaster from the GAF Corporation UK, $1.95 if you bought those back in the day, Dino. They're now worth £25. And that's for Full Circle and Castrovalva. They're worth £25 each, and they have to be on the card. £25 on the card. Okay.
I remember the State of Decay cassette. It was at my local library. And I know you've done a full episode on it, but a shout out to the Genesis of the Daleks record as well. That's a good piece, Tom Merch. I've got the cassette of that. That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. There were 4 sets of Doctor Who jigsaws with Tom. There was so much around at the time, wasn't there? There really was. I mean, Tom, this is why I say I only touched on things there in Merchandise Paradise. It was a golden age. It was huge. He was everywhere. The Doctor was Tom Baker, and that's why to this day, he still is. It's just absolutely iconic.
Ian, where did you get that Cyberman head?
Oh, that's a reproduction. I've
fantastic.
got an Earthshock one, this, and an Invasion one. But I painted him black because
it's a Tom Baker Cyberman, folks. So we're keeping him in theme. Yeah,
I love the Revenge Cybermen. I think they're brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love him. And
oh, look at that!
Oh, that's brilliant!
Bloody hell!
That's what Sarah said.
Wow.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, I've just remembered I've got this picture of Tom with the infamous Palatoy talking Daleks. Isn't that gorgeous?
The arms are falling off them.
Lovely.
Then.
Yeah, in the wrong places and all sorts. Look.
There you go. There's the grey one with the black spots.
Yes. Well, I think that's the red one, to be honest.
Oh, is it? Oh.
I think that's probably the red one. Yeah. But this was him on one of those infamous tours I was talking about when he was touring, promoting the Target books. What a guy. What an absolute legend he was. And also, don't forget as well that there were also a range of postcards. The BBC office back in the day would send you a postcard. If you wrote in a letter, Kirsty, to the BBC production office in London, and you said nice things or whatever, they would send you a picture of Tom or the companions, and they were usually signed. You would get free autographs back then from the production office. The actors would actually sign the blooming things. And that went on until the production office closed in 1990. The middle one, of course, was the Welcome to Blackpool. That was a series of things for both the Blackpool and the Longleat exhibitions. Gorgeous, happy times. We all used to collect the postcards as well. Do you remember, guys? They were everywhere.
I've got the season 18 one.
Gorgeous ones. Gorgeous stuff.
Yeah. And all you had to do was write a letter to the BBC production office asking for them. And the BBC, back then being responsible, I'm controversial, would send the kids one. Those actors must have all signed those things. Must have taken them hours to sign those. There must have been thousands of them. But thank you to all of them for doing it, because they were very appreciated. Really, really appreciated. Yes, there we go. Peter saying the total legend, that is Tom. Timescales is saying if Tom Baker did one more convention, it would sell out in seconds and we could likely fill a sports stadium. Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally. Troy is saying the Revenge Cybermat was terrifying as a kid. Well, it certainly was, wasn't it? Yeah. Tony is saying his auntie bought the theme on a single. Always wanted to go there to play it. I'm not sure where you were going to. I've missed something there, but thank you. I mean, this is. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a big show for us to celebrate Tom's 90th birthday today. So now let's go back to Phil, and I'll play the right video now. Let's have a look. Let's see if we met up with Phil's expectations, shall we?
Me again. So these are the predictions I'm going to make. At some point, somebody is going to mention Tom Baker underpants. It's the second somebody is probably going to mention the creature from the pit, and you'll know which bit I'm talking about, the bit with Erato. And if I had to guess a person, I'd probably say Paul's going to do that. And I'm going to have to watch his video tomorrow and find out if I was right.
Oh, we didn't. So it gets a point for the Tom Baker underpants.
To see, I wonder.
He is outrageous, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is. Yeah.
Oh no! But listen, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. We've had a lot of you joining us tonight for this very special edition of Who's Views, our birthday special for Tom today on his actual birthday, 90 years of age. Huge fondness to Tom. I mean, what? Oh, I'm going now. I don't know what to say no.
I just want to say thank you, Tom. Thank you for everything. Happy birthday if you're watching. I'm sure you are. But thank you for everything. Yeah, I salute you, sir.
Yeah,
I
thank
think we
you,
all
Tom. You're
do.
wonderful. We all love you to bits.
Yeah.
When he came to York, he came to the York Waterstones when he was doing the tour for the autobiography, and I went with a friend of mine tagged along that I was working with, a friend of mine called Lisa, who now lives in Australia.
Oh,
and not a fan or anything else, just tagged along.
Not a fan of Australia.
I'm sure she's a great fan of Australia. I mean, she lives there now. She's got 2 gorgeous daughters. And just tagged along, and she didn't really have a clue what Tom Baker was like, or she had vague recollection of who he was. And he just strode in from the back in his raincoat, just strode in from the back, got to the front, turned around, and did it. And for the next hour, everybody was just in the palm of his hand, including her, and she loved it. She had a fantastic time. She took the photo I've got with him from that day. She took, which I'm eternally grateful for. But I had a message from her today, and she remembers it vividly. So,
no, really?
Yeah, I wanted to share that, and I wanted to say hi to Lisa because I'm going to send her the link.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Welcome to
Lisa.
Australia.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've just had our longest show so far here on Who Views. We're coming up to the 3-hour mark. Tom Baker is worth every minute that we've given him tonight. I just want to thank everybody that has been watching us tonight. Thank you for coming on and sharing your memories and joining the chat. Thank you for celebrating the legend that is our very own Doctor Who, Tom Baker. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for all your support. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to all the Whotastic panel here tonight, to Michael, to Paul, to Kirsty, to Bewea, to Third Doctor Ian, to Phil, and of course to Zach and to Teddy as well. Thank you all very, very much for being on the show. I've had a ball. I hope you've had a ball. It's fair to say, I think, that the legend that is Tom Baker, without him, Doctor Who would be nothing. He made the show. He built on what was given to him, and he's taken it on. And as I said at the very top of this show, Doctor Who was never the same again. Tom, if you ever happen to cross this show, to use your parlance, you are adored, you are loved, and you are our Doctor. Until we are back tomorrow on Who's Views at 7 o'clock in the evening here in the UK, where we review Sharda. Please join us again. Let us know your thoughts. If you're going off to watch it now, go and watch it. Anything but the Big Finish one with Paul McGann, because it has to be the Tom ones. So come and join us tomorrow for Sharda, live at 7. And also keep an eye out in the week for another part of our Tom Baker at 90 season, where Michael and I get together to look at the latest release from Silver Screen for Revenge of the Cybermen. But until we see you again, Tom, happy birthday. We love you. Thanks, everybody. Say goodnight, everyone.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Good night, everyone. Happy birthday, Tom.
Bye-bye.